to the debris signature, because I want to see if we're seeing any debris in there. One of the things we look at in the dual pole data is to see if we see any debris being lofted by that storm, and right now it does not appear to be any, but I'm going to zoom in close because I'm seeing what's a little bit of an appendage here. What I mean by that is you see this little kind of hook right there. That is possibly right where the rotation is occurring. So there's the radar just sweeping by, moving towards Highway 221. So this is actually just outside of our viewing area, but the warning brings it into the southern part of Cleveland County here shortly. So just a heads up, anybody in southern Cleveland County, you need to start taking those tornado precautions. Get to the most interior room on the lowest level of your home. If you can, get to a closet, maybe underneath the stairs, something like that. That gives you a good place to be sheltered from flying debris. Grab the helmet if you can. The helmet is the key part of this. You can protect your head from flying debris. But again, that's the circulation near the Chesney area right there. And let me do an updated track, because we'll put a track right here, kind of show you it moving off in this direction. Right now I have the track speed. And let me double check the speed here. I'm going to look at the radar interpretation to see what the speed is on the radar return here. It looks like the speed is around 45 miles per hour. So I'm going to pick up the speed a little bit on this based on the radar movement. And it kind of makes sense when you see how long that warning polygon is. Hold on, let me remove that real quickly and we'll show you again that warning. So we'll pop it back up. There it is. I'm going to change the speed on this to 45 miles per hour. So give you a better idea. And when we do these tracks, just a word of caution, this is a general idea. Don't read too much into the specific time. It's supposed to give you kind of an idea. Anybody in the polygon needs to be in shelter right now. So there's the updated storm track. I'm going to go over this the key wall again here, and you can see the movement northeast at 45 miles per hour. So this is an updated track here, right over Chesney right now. Boiling Springs 424. Now updated track for Shelby. This is much quicker because it's moving faster now at closer to about 434. Then Kings Mountain 445, and then Cherryville closer to 5 o'clock. So this could be around 5 o'clock on the border of Cleveland and Gaston County if it continues moving in that general direction. Now, I know you see down there York County. Here's the thing, the circulation seems to be moving this direction. So I think York County, for the most part, you're probably going to be okay, except for near the state line. We're talking primarily the southern part of Cleveland County and then the western and southwestern part of Gaston County as that tornado warning moves off to the north and east. And Bill, I'm keeping a close eye on our spotter reports in that area, because this is tracking very close to Interstate 85 here. So right around the Gaffney area, we're probably going to get some pretty good spotter reports if this thing is touching down on the ground right now.
And the fact that we're moving towards rush hour is not going to help matter as much.
Yeah, and one thing I would tell you, if you can, if you have friends or family in that area, maybe they're traveling on 85, go ahead. It doesn't hurt to give them a text or a call and say, hey, there's a tornado warning right now right along 85, just near the state line. We're talking that Cherokee County, southern Cleveland County area. That's the area of concern right now as it pushes off to the east, northeast at about 45 miles per hour.
So they're going to get something with that line of storm. It's just the conditions are favorable to produce a tornado.
Yeah, this is a strong indication on radar, Bill. And one of the things we're looking at right now is the velocity data. And you see me show that. That's the red and greens that you see popping up on the radar from time to time. That's an indication of where we have rotation in the storm. Now, one way we can confirm a tornado with Doppler radar is with this product right here. Now, it just looks like a bunch of maroon. This product actually tells us if there's debris being lofted by the tornado. So the radar beam is physically bouncing off of things that are being picked up. And right now, that area right around the Mayo, Chesney area, we don't see lightning colors. We just see the maroon. If we see yellows or blues showing up, then we know we have debris being lofted. We'll see the radar sweep by right there. So right now, this is a radar indicated tornado, and it's a really strong signature. If we look real quickly at these velocity data here, I'm going to real quickly kind of query them, we call it. So you can see there's 43 miles per hour there and 17 towards the radar there. So you're getting close, you know, to about 70 miles per hour of rotational wind speed in there. So you're getting really close to, you know, seeing a EF0, EF1 type tornadic signature there. That's pretty strong. So even at the very least, you're getting strong damaging winds within that cell, and potentially that's why we'd want you to be off the road anyways. And
Right.
you can see as I widen this out, just to give you perspective on where this is in relation to Charlotte, that's the storm we're keeping an eye on.
It's just down 85.
Yeah, so the area, people know, by the Peach, if you're traveling on 85
Right,
there.
the outlet mall there.
Yeah, it's just to the west of there, and it's moving towards the outlet malls, right there towards Gaffney, big Rugged Home there, the big Peach, the outlet malls. It's basically traveling right there. So the next stop would be towards Boiling Springs, Gardner-Webb University
Gardner-Webb, right
there. There's Grover, Blacksburg. Southern side of Shelby, and then Kings Mountain, which is borderline Cleveland and Gaston County. You got half the city on either side. So that's the area we're watching right now. And again, I'll loop this real quickly just to show you the forward speed. It's moving 45 miles per hour. So it's moving almost as quickly as some of those interstate cars and traffic going on down there right now.
How long is a warning like this liable to last? I mean, for the people on the eastern edge of this warning, they're going to get something. They're going to get that line of storms. But in terms of a tornado warning, how long should they remain sheltered in place? Obviously until it expires, but
I would say until this moves past you. So any area west now of, what is this, Highway 221, anywhere west of there, you're in the clear. So they'll start whittling down this polygon we call it. It's just basically a shape that they draw, and it's basically based on the storm track of the actual circulation. So you can see that circulation right there. And again, it's heading towards southern Cleveland County. So technically not in our viewing area yet, but the great thing about this is we have a pretty good lead time on this. We've got about 20-30 minutes of lead time for the eastern part of this cell, and this was the same storm which actually prompted a warning earlier. So let me do a quick updated track build just to give people an idea. And I'm going to put the track beyond the end of the warning just in case we continue the warning past there. And so I'm going to go all the way to Gastonia. And so you can see Shelby 433, towards the bottom of the hour. And then Kings Mountain, same time frame, about 4:45, Cherryville, Bessemer City, then Gastonia. If it holds on, the Gastonia, Dallas area, right along 321, you're probably talking closer to 5 o'clock. So that's 50 minutes from now. That's plenty of lead time. Not that we want you to go and shelter right now in those locations, but if you're in that area, you should be paying attention to this storm and ready to go to that shelter.
are you surprised by the fact that this storm is producing a tornado warning?
I was worried about it because it produced one earlier, and it had that basically shape to it that we kind of look at. And I jokingly sometimes call these squiggly or S curves. When we see these S curves in the thunderstorms, when they do something like this, that typically is an area we'll watch for quick rotations within the bow of these apex, and then sometimes in these bookend vortices we call them. So we know there's strong winds. That's a bowing segment that definitely is producing strong winds. But kind of shocked that we got a warning so quickly there right when we were watching it, because that was actually a cell I was going to point out that said we got to keep an eye on it. And sure enough, right then and there we had the tornado warning pop up as it moves towards southern Cleveland County. So I'm keeping an eye on our spotter reports over that area. Haven't seen any confirmation of a touchdown, but we are getting reports of really strong winds within that cell as it moves into southern Cleveland County.
And so, Brad, when we talk about the urgency of this,
Yep.
I heard you mention folks, needing to get closer towards the interior of their homes. Are we talking about people going full tilt into getting into their shelters? Are they bringing their helmets with them? Or are we just kind of preparing to get to that point at this point?
I'm going to want everybody to get into that shelter location and grab those helmets right now. Just because this storm has had a history of producing tornado warnings earlier, and it's moving out in an environment back in Alabama and northern Georgia where we had very strong indications of rotation in those cells. So right now I want you to take these storms very seriously because of the way the atmosphere is set up to the west of us. It's not quite to the level of last week for most of our area, but to the west the ingredients were much more favorable today for storms to produce tornadoes. So yeah, grab that helmet, bring your shoes in there, get into that interior room. And if you're just outside of that warning area, so folks in Gaston County, you're technically not in the warning yet, it's time to gather those things together and get that closet cleared out and just get ready to go in there in case a warning is issued. So basically stay on guard potentially for another warning to be issued as this pushes to the east. I'm going to do a quick little loop here, and if you look carefully, kind of that whole line looks like it's rotating. It's actually got some indications that it's actually the whole storm is kind of spinning right now. So there's definitely rotation within this cell The question is it connecting all the way down to the surface today? And that's always the $1 million question in these cells. They're rotating in the mid-levels. Is it connecting to the ground and producing a tornado near the surface?
A lot of people wonder why, when this happens, that we're on the air nonstop. Can you explain that to them?
Well, the main reason is, this is, believe it or not, even this day and age of text alerts and phones, this is still the #1 way people get severe weather alerts. Usually when your phone goes off, the first thing people do is turn the TV on. And because we have an FCC license that the government gives us, one of the things we have to do good for the community, we have to relay this information to you. Now, we can do it graphically, we can do it with crawls, but it's much easier with radar images, pictures, and me on here explaining what's going on. We're in our newscast anyway, so we might as well cover this completely, because it is a situation where we could have life or property damaged by this storm. And again, the tornado by itself is generally a pretty small event, but it's the strongest winds on the face of the earth are inside a tornado. So if you're in the path of this storm, and if you loop this, I mean, honestly, even the whole line, I would be in shelter just because of the strong winds associated with it. So I'm going to do is do a track like this to give you a little better idea. So that's an updated track based on the forward speed of about 45 miles per hour. So that's going to put it into Shelby here, coming up at the bottom of the hour. At least the south side of town, that's only 15 minutes away.
Yeah, and those straight line
Shelby.
winds can do just as much damage.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The straight line winds extend along this whole line. The tornadic winds might be 100 or 50 yards wide, which may have 100 mile an hour winds, but the width of that storm probably has 60 to 70 mile per hour winds along the whole length of the line. So I'm checking with spotters. You might hear my computer beep every once in a while. It's because I'm getting messages from people out in the field checking this out. Most of our spotter groups have been activated in these areas. So you're seeing several spotter groups being activated for possible rotation within that storm. Now, this is not the only cell I'm keeping an eye on. We've got another one just to the south, which is down near Lawrence, South Carolina, and you can see that at the bottom of your screen. So this line is pushing into parts of York and Chester County. So just for people in Chester and York, I would be ready as well. Just, let's wait and see what happens with this line as it pushes east. But everybody, especially west of I-77, I think I tweeted out earlier that, those are the areas west of I-77 today. We're going to have to be weather aware through the evening hours as this pushes to the east.
Yeah, my notifications are going off right now on my phone.
Yeah, so we're getting a lot of those notifications. If you live in areas where the tornado warning's in effect, or you have alerts turned on for the whole area, you're going to see those alerts pop up as it moves to the east at 45 miles per hour. I'm just doing a quick little update for folks who are likely not watching TV right now. So that's why I said, if you can, please call somebody, text them. If they're in the path of this storm, let them know. They might not be paying attention here in the late afternoon hours. In most areas, it's just cloudy and warm out there, and they might even know there's severe weather off to the west.
Yeah, when you're talking about debris in the air, there are some things that you just have to be ready for, and you got to have a plan ahead of time, because if you're in a single family home, you get to the lowest point possible, you get into an interior room, a bathroom, a hallway, you get under the stairs. You don't want to be anywhere near the glass, obviously the windows, because when the debris starts flying, all of that is going to break. It's a great idea if you have curtains on those windows, close them. If you live in a high rise, and a lot of people do in this particular area, maybe out where this tornado warning is, there aren't so many high rises, but it's good information nonetheless. You get to the bottom floor and you stay interior. That's usually the best advice. And you don't have a lot of time to react. When you hear these warnings go off, Brad, right? You get into place.
Yeah, and the thing is about these tornado warnings, when we hear them and we tell those, Bill just gave you some great information, the whole point is to protect yourself from flying debris. So as many walls between you and the outside protects you. That's why the helmet is so important. Most of the first responders will tell you when people are injured in these tornado events, it's head trauma, Bill, which is basically getting hit in the head with something. So a simple thing is a bike helmet, a hard hat, a football helmet, a skateboard helmet, any kind of helmet you have in your house, anything that's protecting your head is what you need to put on there to protect your head, and get as low as possible. Try to protect your head. If you can get low, get underneath a workbench, or put a cushion over your head or something like that. That can help you get protected from the flying debris. And the other thing is have those shoes, because like we saw in Alabama, some big time destruction in those areas, when you get out of the damage, you're going to be climbing over nails and glass and stuff. And so we don't want you injured after the fact because you had to climb out over stuff and had socks on or bare feet.
Right, and watch for downed power lines. Never go near them. Duke Energy issued a warning just last week when we were back talking about something just like this. Even though the power lines are down, they may look dead, but they could still be very active, or they might have power in them still. So just never go near anything like that, even if it looks dead. Leave that to the power company. And you're right about the shoes. That's excellent advice, because the screws and the nails, they're everywhere.
Yeah, and most people, if you're at home, you probably don't have shoes on in your house. You're probably thinking, I don't need them.
Right.
But grab, even if you don't put them on, grab them and bring them with you in there.
Right.
Also grab, a charger or a battery pack and your phone or tablet. You can stream our coverage live on your phone. It's on our WCNC Charlotte app. You can keep an eye on this, and we'll give you the all clear. I always try to give the all clear for areas that are out of the warning. And just to give you an idea, so you saw the update to the warning right there. So areas to the west have just been cleared out. And now you can see the warning's been whittled down to just Cherokee and Cleveland County. So we're on the air because Cleveland County is our viewing area, and Cherokee County, honestly, a lot of people watch us in Cherokee County, even though that's technically not in our viewing area. Our transmitter is just over here in Gaston County. So most of these counties can pick us up clear as day right now. So this is that cell. And again, the circulation, I'm going to go over to the key wall real quick just to kind of illustrate what's going on here. You can see that kind of S curve that we have in the return right here. So you see this kind of moving like this. This indentation is what we call an inflow notch. There's strong winds going into the storm. The backside, there's something called a rear flank downdraft, which is a big gust of wind coming out of the storm. When it wraps around that inflow, that's where we see the tornado form. So anytime we see that show up on the radar right near the state line, so this is Cleveland County, that's the Rutherford County line, this is Cherokee County. So right there, all three of those counties come together. That's where that rotation is. Here's I-85. Okay, there's Blacksburg, Cherokee, Gaffney and Cherokee County is right here. So the Big Peach, if you ever travel down there, the Prime Outlet Mall's right there. That is where the storm is, just north of the interstate. Probably folks traveling on 85 seeing the big dark lowering. Pull off, get to a gas station if you're listening on the radio, or maybe you called some friends or family traveling down 85 right now. Have them get off the interstate. Just wait this one out. Go to the nearest gas station, fast food joint, whatever you can get to. Say, hey, there's a tornado. We're going to seek shelter in here. Mask up, get in there, and wait this thing out. Once it passes, you get back here. It's still raining, but you're out of the severe risk. And so there it is. So you see that notch, still very strong. So Shelby, heads up. This is going to be heading your way. Let me move the map just a hair. And we're going to drift this up to the north. So this is heading right towards that southern part of the county. Boiling Springs, Gardner-Webb area is the area that we're watching. And again, so this is heading towards Cleveland County. And I believe we have the Cleveland County Emergency Manager on the phone right now. Are you there, sir?
Yep.
Yes, sir. It's Perry Davis, Cleveland County Emergency Management.
How are you doing this afternoon?
Well, we're hoping very well for the time being, but we're very hopeful that the storm will pass over us without any damage.
What's the weather look like there right now?
Here in Shelby, we're just experiencing a very light wind with rain. No rotation as we can see at this time.
Have sirens or anything been indicated there?
We have set off our warning system, which includes our sirens. In the event that the National Weather Service does indicate a warning, that's our protocol to notify our residents in our county to take cover.
Perry, what beyond that do you do at a moment like this to warn people?
Just try to get the message out as much as possible through social media, as well as our sirens and our radio system in our county with our public safety agencies. We also notify them as well. So we try to get the message out through that media.
I imagine your first responders go on, I guess the word high alert maybe? They're ready to go?
High alert. That's correct. High alert. Some stations are manned and then people are on standby in the event they need to respond.
Well, based on what Brad was saying, you're going to get a large chunk of this storm headed right for you when you are in this tornado warning.
Right. We understand. We're continuing to monitor it.
Perry, now how would your first responders head out? Would they wait until this warning expires, or will they respond to any damage reports immediately?
when safe to do so, they'll respond as soon as the storm passes over. They obviously won't run out in the middle of a tornado, but as soon as it passes over, they'll respond to try to mitigate whatever they need to and respond to assist the public that's in need.
You mentioned this storm's going pretty fast.
Yeah, moving about 45 miles per hour. And Perry, I know, does the 911 center take a lot of calls during an event like this? And would you recommend residents call if they see damage or see a tornado, or would you have them contact you another way?
Only in the event of an emergency do they need to call 911. 911 tends to get bombarded from time to time with calls that are not necessarily emergency type calls. But unless you do have an emergency, we would suggest that you call non-emergency numbers, which are listed and accessible through the internet or other means. However, if you do have an emergency, obviously 911 is there for you to use at that point.
And in the immediate aftermath of a tornado passing through, obviously first responders have a tough time getting around because of the downed power lines, because of the debris in the road. People sometimes don't realize that.
That's correct, and any added traffic does kind of hinder our response as well. So it's best, if you can, to stay inside and stay away from those areas that are impacted. Sometimes people get curious and want to get out and see things, but you need to wait and give us time to get out and respond and not hinder that response by creating congestion and traffic.
Have you all been in touch with the power company at this point already, or is that too premature?
It's premature at this time. I don't have any contact with them as of yet, but I'm sure we will if we do have damage.
All right, Perry Davis with the Cleveland County Emergency Management Department. Thanks for being with us on the phone today. If you happen to see anything more, Perry, or if it gets kind of hairy there, please give us a holler back. Either tweet us or just give us a call.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Perry. Yeah, thanks, Bill. Wow, the good news I can tell you with this cell, as I'm looking at it right now, there is still strong winds associated with this cell, but it's not showing that strong rotation. We've got some 30, 40, 50 mile an hour winds in there, but it doesn't have that couplet, we call it, which is basically what we would see where there was rotation. So that's good news. The rotational signature has actually shown signs of weakening as it's been pushing off to the east. So that's a good sign. Well, hopefully that trend continues and we won't see it spin back up. But because this storm has had such a long history of producing a tornado warning, at least I can't say it's a confirmed tornado, but we just have strong winds with a little bit of a notch there just now entering Cleveland County. So the area I'm talking about here is just to the west of Earl, southeast of Boiling Springs, and southwest of Patterson Springs. It is moving northeast again at about 45 miles per hour. So I'm going to track the actual rotation off to the northeast, and you can see that's the updated track towards Earl, towards Patterson Springs, Grover, Kings Mountain, Bessemer City, and South Gastonia. So that's the area that the rotation is showing up on First Warn Doppler radar. Now, meteorologist Chris Mulcahy joins us now, and Chris, we've been watching this storm move in from the west, and it's produced warnings several times, but so far no confirmed touchdowns.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this, Brad, is it's how quick moving it is. But most of the tornadoes that we see in this area do just that. So right now I'm in northwest Charlotte. You can already see some of the darker clouds from it and starting to move in from the west. And that's exactly what you're going to be seeing. This is going to be quickly in and out. So anyone watching the Charlotte area, it's going to be here before you know it. But a quick lesson, this is where we could see a lot of spin-up tornadoes. Some can last a little bit longer because they're along this line. So it's called a quasi-linear convective system. So it moves fast, it forms fast, they're short-lived, and this is what's most common. So that's exactly what we're going to be seeing. So as we are continuing through the afternoon, this is going to be on our doorstep. So just seeing that little notch that Brad has been bringing up, it definitely has been improving overall, but we're going to see a little bit more of these. So as this continues its forward momentum at 45 to 50 miles per hour, that's still going to be a cause of concern because more of these notches can form. So even areas that are anywhere along this line that you're not necessarily under the tornado warning, you're still going to have that possibility just because these could be that typical spin up type of criteria, and just feel the air. I'm outside. I can already start to feel the upper lip start to sweat a little bit. And I know that that's too much information, but the reason why I brought that up is that's the mugginess to the air. So one thing that we didn't have last time, it wasn't as muggy. We didn't have the humidity that we had for our last tornado warning. Now the ingredients should be a little bit more favorable as we head through the season. And Brad, that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And if you go to camera right now, we actually just got picked up. We're going to be cruising around following this storm, so I'm about to hop in the Chevy Storm Tracker.
Yeah, Chris, it's a very good point that this line is actually probably more of what we call, a squiggly squall line, as you refer to as a QLCS. That's kind of our technical term for it, but I'll call it a squiggly squall line, because when they're straight, they're definitely straight line winds. When they get these kinks in them, they can spin up tornadoes fairly quickly. So you can see how this cell is racing in through southern Cleveland County. It's almost to Shelby right now, and we're likely going to see this move into Shelby probably here in a while. Now, there's another warning down to the south that we're keeping an eye on. That's a separate warning, and the reason I point that out is that cell is moving towards Chester County. So, we've been kind of giving you a heads up ahead of time. If that continues pushing to the east, then we would have, the areas we'll have to keep an eye on. Those would be areas in parts of western York, as well as western parts of Chester County. So those two areas that we're watching as well, because potentially that could be moving in to those areas later. So let's do an updated storm track. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to track the whole cell. Because it's likely producing damaging winds of some kind, we're going to do a quick track, and you can see the movement as we do the updated storm track there, heading towards the east right now at about 45 miles per hour. So it's essentially on Earl right now, or just south of Shelby, which we're coming up at the bottom of the hour. Remember our previous storm tracks, that was what we were watching. The next in line, Blacksburg, Grover, Stony Point, Waco, Kings Mountain, Bessemer City, 450-ish or so. If it continues to cross over from Bessemer City into central Gaston County, you're looking at Gastonia somewhere around there, around 505 or so. But I will tell you, the good news is that little kink we have there, while it does indicate there is some strong winds, I am not seeing anything on first warn Doppler radar that would indicate that this is producing rotation anymore, at least strong rotation. But these things have been what we call cyclical. They will kind of pulse up, they will rotate, the storm will weaken, at least the rotation, a new rotation will form, and then it'll swing out ahead of it. So the one thing we can tell you is that as the storms move east, they are moving out of an environment that's more favorable into an environment that's less favorable. So, and last week we would have been like, okay, these storms are going to keep moving. We're going to have severe weather all the way to the east. The atmosphere to the east doesn't have quite the wind shear that we have to the west of I-77. So these areas around Charlotte East, while we could still see some severe storms here, the potential starts to decrease pretty rapidly from west to east as you go into parts of Gaston County and then eventually Mecklenburg County. So far, we've got no reports of damage. It's moving through southern Cleveland County. We've got a big spotter group over there. I've been checking with everybody that we have over in that area, and we have not seen any reports of damage yet, which is a good sign that something has not touched the ground yet, at least. If we look at that correlation coefficient, we call it, or debris signature, don't see any. So that's another good sign. We'll go back to the velocity data. Looks like straight line winds. So just a heads up in Cleveland County, even though this might not be a tornado on the ground, there's certainly some very strong winds of 58 to 60 miles per hour. The area of concern is right here. If there's going to be a spin up, this area between Blacksburg, South Carolina, which is near 85, Earl and Grover. So just real quickly, I'll kind of highlight the area I'm talking about. There's probably some broad rotation right there in that area. And what's going on there, those green colors, those bright green colors, are winds going this direction, and the reds are winds going this direction.
Now, if I'm watching this at home, I'm thinking, how do you know that? How do you see, what are you seeing there that tells you a broad area of rotation?
So what we're looking at, Bill, is the radar's picking up something in the air. In this case, it's probably raindrops that are being wrapped around. And because it's a Doppler radar, the reason it's called Doppler radar, it's not just some marketing term, it uses a thing called the Doppler Shift. And you probably have experienced, have you ever been to a train track and hear a train coming, it goes, and the frequency of the sound changes as the train is coming towards you and away from you. Well, in the radar signature, what we're looking at, we can tell if the raindrops are blowing towards the radar or are away from the radar, based on that Doppler shift.
Interesting.
And so that allows us to say, hey, basically right here, and I'll put that back up to explain, we'll show you that velocity data, we can tell that the radar has winds going this direction here. Whoops, let me erase that real quick.
And let me just jump in here. For anybody just tuning in, obviously we're in the middle of a tornado warning. Brad's been on since the top of the hour here for Cleveland County. This storm originated down to our southwest area and has been moving rapidly towards this area. As I said, we've been on pretty much since 4 o'clock with this tornado warning. Brad, take it away again.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Yeah, so what I was saying is, these winds are going this direction and these winds are going that direction. So you can infer some rotation there. Imagine I have a paper towel roll or a pencil in my hands, and if I move my hands like that, it would roll, right? It would create rotation. So we know right there we're getting rotation. So that's how the Doppler radar is showing us where that rotation is. Now, when we pick up debris, the radar is telling us whether or not we've got different sized particles in the air. It's one of the amazing things about dual pole Doppler radar is not only does it tell us if they're raindrops, we know if they're snowflakes, pieces of hail, pieces of sleet. And in these cases like this, unfortunately, we can tell if it's shingles, 2x4s, leaves, because they're all not the same shape. Raindrops are uniform. They're all pretty much the same size. But when you have different sized objects next to each other, we know it's probably not rain and it's not snow. It's something else. And in this case, it would be debris. This is why we can pick up birds and bats and other things, because those are weird shaped animals. So that shows up on the radar. So we just got another update there to the warning. We can give you an all clear for the Boiling Springs area down to Gaffney. You're on the back side of this now. The front side of this, if we continue tracking this, and I don't know if we're going to see this warning extended based on the signature, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to check with the Weather Service real quickly here because I'm on a chat with them to see what their plans are. Usually they'll give us a heads up if they're going to continue this warning. But because it is moving to the northeast at 45 miles per hour, I would suspect we would see the warning come out pretty soon here because it's racing. And to get ahead of this, you're going to have to put that warning out pretty quickly. So there's the updated track. Grover, 437. Waco, 443. Kings Mountain, 448. And then Bessemer City at about 453. So Bessemer City, I'm actually looking at their camera right now, which is on their water tower. I'm looking at it off camera here, trying to see if I see any rotation or anything showing up there. And right now I do not. It's just basically just all rainfall and clouds in that direction, Bill.
You were right. This storm's moving
Brad,
lightning fast.
as we kind of wait to see how this develops,
Go ahead,
should
Vanessa.
we probably remind folks all the different ways that they need to have access to information like this crucial information that you're giving us right now on TV?
Yeah, so the best thing you could do is, and I'm a big proponent, download the WCNC Charlotte News app because not only you're going to get alerts, but you can literally watch us on your phone right now. We stream all of our newscasts live, and anytime we break in like this, it also is a great way to get warnings. And if you have a tablet, you can watch us on our website or our app there as well. Always have about 3 different ways to get a warning. You can have weather radio, TV, social media, any of those devices, but make sure you have several ways to get a warning because some of those might fail or you might not have access to one of those versions in your daily life. You might be out and about, so that's why having your phone is available as well. Now, Chris Mulcahy, he is in I think is he in Northwest Charlotte still? He's keeping an eye on this storm heading towards us. And Chris, what are you seeing? Because you can probably see the leading edge of that rain heading right towards you.
Yeah, it's all about just kind of seeing what's coming from upstream. So as of right now, still in the northwestern part of Mecklenburg County, it's still going to be some of those darker clouds. So nothing really looks threatening as of yet. But going to our radar imagery here, so Brad's been constantly bringing up the velocity scope, the Doppler winds. This is way too spread out. You need pretty much a pinpoint. See that little plus symbol? If you had a bright green spot within the red that was like that would be a little bit bigger cause of concern because that means a tighter rotation. But you're talking about a pretty wide width. Now, this could be picking up on the base of what would be a rotating wall cloud. So bringing up our measuring tool, check this out. From Shelby to the bottom of this, that's about 7 miles apart. that is way too large for it to actually be that tight rotation. So that's why Brad was saying that things are getting a little bit better. Now, this is moving so quickly, and I brought this up before. This is a typical system that we usually have, where spin-up tornadoes are still going to be possible. So we have 2 tornado warnings that have been associated with this, one a little bit further to the southwest, one that's right over Cleveland County. It's those kinks, those squiggly lines. I know that's not a technical term that we always have to look out for. So they're moving fast, they're forming fast, and that's exactly what we have here. So really anyone that's in line, Gaston County are going to be up next, I think parts of Lincoln County, but it does look like that this is starting to kind of loosen up a little bit. Sometimes the forward momentum of the winds can start to separate itself. So once we had that tight squiggle, that little squiggly snake that came through, that's where you have a bigger cause of concern. But notice how that's only really one section from about Gaffney up to Shelby, and then there's still a chance right around here, looking up to Bellwood, even though it's not as tight, you're still seeing that general squiggle along there from Double Shows, just west of Falston up to Kaiser. So we're not done yet, and even just here, it's still several miles away from where my house is, and I can actually bring up on the map where exactly I'm located. I can already sense that the winds are starting to pick up because the outflow of a thunderstorm system, may it be a line, a single thunderstorm, can reach up to several miles. So we're already starting to feel the effects of that, and right now, I would say that we're probably about 20, 30 miles away. So ones that are next in line, Kings Mountain, I think that you have the chance for this. So even if you're not in the warned area outside of those warning boxes, Brad, we have seen this before, that spin-up tornado can happen, and then we have the tornado warning for about a half hour, 45 minutes after that. So even though things are looking better, broad rotation, we like that, seeing a bigger area. It's at this point, we still have to watch it because that broad rotation can easily tighten up in a quick span. But the good news, luckily, this is going to be in and out of here pretty quickly through the early evening hours.
A lot of good information here from our meteorologist. Just wanted to take a moment to remind folks of some of the safety tips, some things you need to know as we deal with these tornado warnings. Folks should really be getting towards the interior of their homes, as Brad has pointed out several times this afternoon. So for some folks, that might be getting to a basement, maybe going into an inside room, no windows, of course, and getting into the lowest floor if you don't have a basement. Of course, as we mentioned, avoiding windows. Brad has been so diligent about reminding us of the importance of protecting our heads, how head trauma is such a thing to watch out for in a situation like this. So if you're getting something sturdy, maybe, you know, a heavy table. Brad has even pointed out before, a bicycle helmet, as silly as that sounds, can be really important for folks to protect their bodies in a time like this. We've talked about for folks who are out in the car, you know, if you are by chance out and about when something like this happens, not to try to outrun the tornado, but instead going and trying to find the nearest sturdy building. Of course, we're giving all of you these tips right now, but something we've heard time and time again from our weather team is just the importance of being prepared, having this knowledge and having a plan before you get into a situation as we are right now. You've got the tornado warnings happening, and now you're trying to decide what are you going to do. Have that plan ahead of time. I know, Brad, you have talked about that so many of times, and how that, you know, little bit of prevention and planning can, you know, counteract a whole bunch of concern and injury and destruction that could happen when these situations arise.
Yeah, absolutely. Preparing for these things will save you a ton of grief and really keep you safer. Now, I put another storm track on this, Vanessa, as you were talking, with those great tips about safety, because this is moving to the east and northeast at 45, so it's going to move into Gaston County. And I think in the booth, guys, you might have the Bessemer City camera pulled up on Graphics 20. Chris, if you can hear me in there. The Graphics 20 will probably have the Bessemer City camera, which is basically mounted on their water tower, and I have it angled back towards the west. So there it is, and I can control it here, guys, so thanks for bringing that up. And real quickly, I'll kind of show you. We're looking back towards Crowder's Mountain, basically. I'm going to pan this to the right a little bit. Now, we don't have great visibility here. I'll move the camera a little bit more. And you can see it's pouring rain there, obviously. Big time rain falling right now. I'll push it to the east a little bit more. This is looking more northwest, so we'll come back to the west. Normally on a nice sunny day here, you would see beautiful Kings Pinnacle and Crowder's Mountain right there in the background. We can't see a thing right now. And the storm is basically heading right towards Bessemer City on the map. So it's essentially right over this area. It should be in Bessemer City here within the next couple of minutes. So it's rain wrapped, whatever it is. We're not going to see it. Bessemer City right in this area right here, looking back towards the west. So you can see the warning. It's about to cross the county line here. And Chris was talking about that rotation. I'm going to show you real quickly the one area of concern. So there's Kings Mountain. You see Grover right there, and Kings Mountain up to the northeast there. That's right on I-85. Right here is the area of concern. There's winds pushing out very strongly here, and there's some wrapping around. Now, if we would see this tighten up, these reds wrap back around, that would be a tightening of the circulation. Right now, it looks very straight line, what we call outflow dominant. So strong winds coming up 85 from Grover, heading up towards Kings Mountain and eventually into the Bessemer City area. And just to show you that camera we were looking at, Bessemer City is right over here, right there to the northeast of Kings Mountain. So we were looking back towards this area, and it's completely rain wrapped. We just couldn't see anything at all. There's a lot of rain in that. When I show you the radar again, you'll see why. It's just all rain right now. So 4:45, this is set to expire in 2 minutes. The fact that we haven't got a new warning is probably a good sign. I'd love to tell you, but chat just crashed with the Weather Service, so we don't know what's going on with them currently. But I would suspect that we would have seen a warning already issued for Gaston County. But here's the thing, sometimes these warnings aren't issued, way ahead of time. These are going to be spin up storms. They're going to happen quick. Chris alluded to this earlier. So all along this line, everybody west of I-77, which is right here, and frankly, even along I-77, for the rest of the evening, I'm going to want you to be weather aware. Grab our WCNC Charlotte app right now, the news app. Make sure you have it. Turn on those notifications for warnings. If there's another warning issued, we'll send out a push notification. You'll get the warning. You can come right back to us. We're going to be on the air till 6:30 regardless. So if anything else should break out of this line, we can let you know what's going on. But at the very least, there's going to be gusty winds, very heavy rain, and cloud to ground lightning with this storm as it moves off to the east. So we're about ready to see this expire coming up here, basically heading towards Kings Mountain and Bessemer City area. So we are basically rain wrapped here. I keep looking at that camera. We just can't see anything down there. And Chris, I think the interesting thing will be to watch this southern part of this cell near the state line, because there is a little indication of some winds pushing out, but it's just not wrapping up right there.
Yeah, and Brad, what we're also seeing is there is a little bit of strengthening as far as we're seeing a few more of those positive lightning strikes.
Yeah.
So it's another thing that we look at. The more of those positive strikes that we see, that is going to be a better chance that we are seeing this thing strengthen. But I think it is strengthening definitely as far as more of a straight line wind event goes. So you really want this line that we're looking at right here to not have those squiggles and kinks. So I am happy about the way that this is developing, but as we just mentioned, there's still a lot more time to go. So moving off towards the east, anywhere from 35 to 45 miles per hour, it's down here. Notice how this is kind of disorganized, but then once we get this area down to the south, which would be affecting maybe the southern parts of Chester County, between the 5 to 6 o'clock hour, notice that you're seeing the squiggles and the kinks there. But then once you go a little bit further off towards the north, as we can see, our tornado warning is no longer in effect. We're not seeing that fine definition. So it was unraveling a little bit. Still gusty winds, still going to be a good possibility. But Brad, this tornado warning is done for now, but we're going to continue to monitor this through the rest of our newscast.
Yeah, Chris, we'll got to keep an eye on this line. I think it was a good point to point out that storm to the south, and that's the one that's warned for right now, which is down here near Highway 26, near Clanton, South Carolina, or Clinton, excuse me, heading towards the east, basically towards Whitmire. So this one has actually got a really strong signature on it with the radar, and I'm gonna show you the velocity data real quickly, because there's really strong winds in there. And the reason we're showing this is just one county away from getting into RV area. So this is a heads up for people in Chester and York County. This tail of this line is moving to the east. And the one thing I always worry about these southern cells, because there's no storms down to the south here. So this has got rich moisture feeding into it. There's nothing to really disrupt the inflow into this storm. This storm can take over. The storms to the north, you've got storms all around here which are going to eat up some of that inflow, and that's going to help weaken the storm. If I widen this out, you can see, towards Columbia, the sun is out down here. It's in the 80s. down here. So there's warm, humid air. So the southern part of this line is one to watch more carefully. As we go to the east, the ingredients begin to drop off. We don't have as many there, and that's an area that we'll potentially see storms weaken. And again, just to highlight, the areas back to the west are the areas where we do have a risk for severe storms today. That risk was definitely higher in the western part of our area, basically west of I-77, where we've got that low to medium risk for the possibility of some strong storms today. That potential is still going to exist here for a while, and I think that's going to continue into the overnight hours until that cold front pushes in from the east. So the line is heading into Gaston County right now with heavy, heavy rain and strong winds at the very least. The thing we haven't seen so far is a tightening up of that circulation. I know our Brandon Goldner is over in Gaston County right now, and I don't know what you're hearing over there, Brandon, but right now it looks like the warning expired, but you're still getting that heavy rain and that wind. What are you hearing across the county?
Yeah, that's right, Brad. I'm right on the Gaston-Cleveland County border, right where you have 74 and 85 come together in Kings Mountain. Right now, it's this heavy rain and seeing a little bit of these gusts of wind, particularly as you see some of the water on the ground starting to blow in pretty fast direction. And as we're talking right now, the rain is starting to pick up. I've been listening to scanner traffic, haven't been able to hear much of anything in terms of any particular emergencies or any trees down or things along that line. We're still seeing a lot of heavy traffic, especially as we're starting to get into that rush hour, especially on I-85 going over the bridge from Mecklenburg County into Gaston County. Just that continual pounding of the rain. Just give me 1 second. I'll toss it back to you, Brad. I'm just going to clean up my lens a little bit here.
All right, thanks, Brandon. So we're taking a look at that line. You're going to get some very heavy rain here in a minute, Brandon. It's the worst of it's heading your way. And what we're seeing right now is a bow echo, now more of a straight line wind event. So while it's probably not got tornadic winds in it, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, just look at that. That is really strong winds all along that line right there from Kings Mountain up to Cherryville. So this is entering the western sections of Gaston County. Nothing that looks like rotational, but remember, wind is wind. Houses, trees, power lines, all of that stuff doesn't really matter what produces the wind. If you get strong enough winds, and in this case it looks like we're getting 40, 50 mile per hour winds at the very least, maybe, thank you, Chris, maybe close to 40 or 50 down in this area. And again, the minus and plus is telling us whether those winds are at the radar or away from the radar. At the radar is a negative wind speed because it's coming at us instead of going away. So we're seeing those negative numbers, but those are 40, 50 mile an hour winds right there near the state line. So this is near Grover. This is 85, right near Crowder's Mountain. So Crowder's Mountain is basically right in this area here, and this is pushing off to the east. So this whole line right here, while there's nothing that shows tight rotation within the line, it's pushing out. That's what we call outflow. This is strong wind. So basically, when you see those, if you've probably seen these clouds, these shelf clouds, they look like, Independence Day. It looks like something's coming down. That's usually what we see right in there. That's probably what's heading right there. So Chris has circled this area right here because we're getting some positive cloud to ground lightning strikes. What's the big deal with that? Well, positive strikes, only about 10% of all lightning strikes are positive in nature. And when we see an uptick in them, there is a correlation between two things. A maturing updraft, which means the winds are going up into the sky, we're getting ice, and a strengthening storm. And sometimes, occasionally, tornadogenesis can develop in that situation. So anytime we see that, that just draws our eye to that area. And that is a little notch in the line as it pushes to the east. You can see the movement. I mean, these things are hauling 45 miles per hour. So almost moving at highway speed, though. If you've been on this part of 85, 45 would be way too slow. This thing is flying right now at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. Very heavy rain moving into Gaston County now. So west of here, I will give you all clear from tornadic winds in the western part of the county, but the eastern part of Cleveland County and now the western part of Gaston County, we've got some very heavy rain. Briefly there you saw Chris pop up the rainfall rates. That was about 3 to 4 inches of rain per hour. So flash flooding is going to be an issue here on Interstate 85. You're driving here. This is zero visibility right now going on 85 between Kings Mountain down to Blacksburg, South Carolina. So basically crossing the border there near Grover. This very, very heavy rain. And again, all this is pushing to the east. So I keep checking over here to see if we get any reports from that area of damage. So far, no reports. I did get some pictures from down in South Carolina further south where we had some more rotation. Up in here, look at these rainfall rates, 2.73 inches per hour. Now, is it going to rain the whole hour? Probably not, but that shows you how fast the rain is coming down right now. When you see over 2 inches, almost 3 inches of rain per hour, you're going to see flash flooding. The drain systems just can't hold that water. So heads up for flash flooding along this line. We've seen some very heavy rain through this line, and flash flooding might end up being a big concern for parts of the mountains that see repeated storms tonight, because this is not the only storms we're going to see. We're likely going to see another wave of thunderstorms come in sometime closer to 10, 11, maybe 12 o'clock tonight. I think that potential is going to exist because we still have storms back in Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee that are associated more with the cold front. That's going to be pushing through overnight. Now, by then, we should see the ingredients begin to calm down a little bit for some of these storms, but those are the areas we've got to watch. Now, I was just, thanks to the guys in the booth and Spencer, we just got an image in from one of our storm spotters down in South Carolina, and we retweeted it earlier, but you could see some of the rain and wind that we're seeing over there right now. Look at the visibility. I mean, if there was a tornado, you probably wouldn't see it. And that's why in these events, we don't want you to go outside and look for this. You're not going to see it. This is not going to look like something out of Twister or even something, you know, that you would see in some of these storm chase videos. In the Carolinas, our tornadoes are all wrapped in rain, which means the precipitation band wraps around it and you don't see it. And that's why sometimes you just see a dark cloud of what looks like rain coming in. And that's all we have moving in from the west. And that's potentially, you know, what we'll see the rest of this evening. So I don't expect to see a lot of great visibility here in the next hour. And rush hour starting in the metro area, even though these might not be severe as they move into Charlotte, it's not going to be great for the evening commute. So just a heads up for everybody out there, you know, it's going to be slow going this evening. We got weather one back, guys. If we could pop that up in a second, I'll show you that severe weather outlook. Thanks. This is exactly what I was talking about. They've actually moved the severe weather risk a little bit further east. Notice that most of Charlotte now is in that low risk. So the main action today has been down here. If you haven't seen today, numerous tornadoes touching down in Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. As they move east, they're running out of energy, but the problem is sometimes these storms are so mature and they're so developed that the momentum carries the severe weather even into an environment where there isn't much ingredients left. So they might be falling apart, but not quick enough that we do have a risk for, at least a low-end risk for severe storms, and even in the mountains, a medium risk for severe weather this evening. So that potential is going to be there, and I think we'll see another wave of storms. So there's the wide view, one tornado warning currently, but let me widen this out even further because I want to show you the storms back to the west. You see more developing, look at that, back into northern Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. So this is wave number one, but the next wave is potentially one we got to watch because we're probably going to see another wave of storms moving in here later this evening. Now, you probably heard my computer going off there, and I'll show you why it was doing that. We basically had a new tornado warning issued just to our south. I'll go back to the radar here. And that warning is for this cell, almost to the Chester County line. So here's Chester. This is the warning. And again, why does that warning look like that? Well, this warning came from Greenville-Spartanburg. This warning came from Columbia. Greenville-Spartanburg is going to fill this in. So I will tell you right now, we're probably going to see a tornado warning right there for Chester County. As I'm speaking, there it is. And it's just, we talk about it, Chester County, now under a tornado warning. So this is a new tornado warning for Chester County till 5:45 p.m. So this does include the city of Chester and the whole southwestern part of Chester County. So sorry, guys, we thought we were going to go back to news here. And as expected, we got that tornado warning for Chester County. So we're kind of giving you the heads up earlier that this was a storm we're going to have to pay attention to. Let me go to the velocity data, and this one is definitely got more of a rotation in it right there. So this is Whitmire, which is down there just to southwest of Chester County. That is really strong rotation. These winds right here are going away from the radar. The greens are coming towards the radar. So we've got, at the very least, we've got maybe 60, 70 mile per hour winds in there. Let me look at the wind velocities in here. Some of these are going to be pretty high. There you go, 63 mile per hour wind. Gate-to-gate shear is really off the charts here. So this is definitely possibly a developing tornado down there. The other parameter we're going to look at here real quickly, let me go back to my dual pole data, is we're going to see if we've got any debris signature. Don't see any debris signatures in there right now. So this is probably just in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, but you can see just kind of a mess of warnings here because you got several counties included. It's all the same storm. Chester County warning is up until 5:45, so we got 45 minutes on this cell. Let me switch radars real quickly. We'll switch to the Columbia radar, and the Columbia velocity data might be a little cleaner. So that's the area right there. There's definitely circulation there. Let me grab my... So right in here is the area I'm circling. A really strong rotation here. So now I switch to Columbia, South Carolina. That radar is down here off the bottom of your screen. These are strong winds towards the radar. These are strong winds away. In fact, if I tally these, you're going to look at some winds that are probably, 50, 60 miles per hour that direction, 30 to 40 the other direction. And so what you do, you've got to add these two together, and that's how you end up with the rotational speed of the tornado. So combining what we call gate to gate, which is both sides of the tornado, you can see the rotation in there is pretty violent. We're probably EF0, EF1 type rotation in that cell. So again, that's a new tornado warning for Chester County. And let's do a quick storm track on that to give you an idea on how fast it's moving. I'm going to look real quickly at the radar here. I got my computer off screen here, so if you're wondering what I'm looking at, we're going to bring up the radar, and I'm going to calculate this wind speed real quickly on the fly. It looks like 30, maybe 28 to 30 miles per hour. So we'll track it at 30 just to be safe. Track this whole thing, move it off to the east. Whoops, right there. So that's the track into Chester County. So Chester 542, that's your timeline right there. Chester Catawba Regional Airport at 5:43. So into Chester there, Whitmire, which is basically coming up here, is going to be around 5:06. So this will continue to push off to the east at about 40, maybe 35 to 40 miles per hour. This looks to be moving a little bit slower than our other storm today, which is kind of interesting, which was moving at 45. This one's much slower, and if you look at the whole line, kind of makes sense because this raced way ahead of it. This one's been hanging back to the south. I know Chris Mulcahy is still watching this. And Chris, that southern cell, those are the ones you always worry about in these situations. There's basically nothing to the south there, so this has got all that warm, humid air feeding right into it.
Yeah, and this is the prime setup. The other one that we were watching was really unraveling. Doesn't mean that you're not going to see some of the stronger winds with it, Brad. But this is a little bit more textbook. And one thing, I'll bring up the drawing tool here. So you're still seeing the squiggles, but right where we were looking at that rotation, it's right in here, and it's slowly squiggling up. You don't want this to develop a hook. So that's what we're always looking for. You probably heard the term numerous times, a hook echo. But this does have all the ingredients to intensify. There it is. It's that bright green going against the bright reds. We just saw a splotch that was in Cleveland County, so this one's a little bit more of the real deal. We're not seeing any evidence that this is indeed on the ground. This is all going to be radar indicated by exactly what we were just looking at. So whenever you see the blues, that means that this is really starting to crank. So let's try to get a good speed there. Now we're up to 53. Before, we were seeing still in that 40 to 50 mile per hour range. I think easily that could be mixing down to around 60 miles per hour. And then meanwhile, you also have some of the oranges. So Brad, you were saying that gate to gate shear. This is exactly what we're looking at. If you quickly just add those numbers up, that's close to 90 miles per hour. So that's giving us in the threshold about an EF1. So when you were talking about an EF0, that's 65 to 85 miles per hour. An EF1 is going to be 85 miles per hour, getting up to about 110. So we're right in that realm. And about 95% of the tornadoes that we see in this area are typically just that. So here it is. You're right now looking at some very strong rotation. This is really starting to crank up, and it's moving off towards the east at about 35 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour, but this is definitely the strongest part of the storm. And also notice that when I'm bringing up the sweeping radar, it's a little bit more isolated, and there's the little notch. We also look at this. The notch is starting to form, so this is all coming together. So Delta, even though this isn't technically in our viewing area yet, as it's moving forward, we now have the notches. We have a little bit of the hook that is starting to form here, and going in between our different radars, all of them are agreeing. So this one right here is what Columbia is saying, and you're looking at the Doppler winds. We call it our velocity scope. This is showing the winds going in and towards the radar. And looking at GSP, they still have some of those yellows, but I'm going to stick with Columbia. Columbia, I think, is a little bit closer. This is really going to show the better representation. And drawing this tool here, Brad, this is definitely starting to crank up. So unlike the other one where it was starting to wind down, now we're starting to see this become a little bit more prevalent.
All right, I want to thank everyone for watching us here at 5 o'clock, WCNC Charlotte. If you were just now watching us, if you're just now tuning in, for the past hour, we've been tracking a series of tornado warnings. We had one in Cleveland County from that system that we saw south of us, moving from Alabama all the way east to the eastern seaboard here. We had that expire since then, and now our chief meteorologist and our team of meteorologists are watching a system that it has a tornado warning for Chester County and surrounding areas until 5:45. I want to check back in with our chief meteorologist, Brad Panovich. Brad?
Yeah, thanks, Fred. Yeah, this storm definitely has a better structure to it than the storm in Cleveland County, which looked like it was rotating but weakening as it's pushing east. This storm, as you just heard Chris Mulcahy correctly talk about, this is actually showing signs of intensifying. So this is the area we're talking about. Chester County is right here. So we're kind of in between Chester, South Carolina, and Whitmire, which is right here. You see this appendage forming. This is a really strong signature of rotation in this cell. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to look at a couple different velocity data. Boy, that is just a really strong signature. We've got that almost textbook kind of a rotational couplet that we look for. And what I'm looking at right here is right here, right there, we've got rotation. So you can see that our top of our chart here, our legend, shows the winds away, basically in red. That's where we have winds going away from the radar. The greens and blues are going towards the radar. So in between we have rotation. So there's definitely some strong rotation indicated right now in the middle of your map right there. And that rotation is pushing to the northeast at about 35 miles per hour. So what I'm going to do is update the storm track here, because as this moves to the east, I'm going to update this to 35 miles per hour. We'll track this off towards this direction because it's heading towards southern Chester County. And we'll put the cities back on there. So Whitmire, Delta, Carlisle, which is then moving into the extreme southern part of Chester County, and eventually Chester, maybe closer to around 5:45. So Chester's kind of on the end of this, but it's really going to depend on the speed of the system as it's pushing off to the east. So again, let me go back to the warning real quickly here, and we'll show you the overall warning. You can see that warning for Chester is until 5:45 this evening. Now, north of this line, we had the warning earlier, and thankfully this part of the line has weakened, but it is still producing some heavy rain, lightning, and gusty winds. And our own Brandon Goldner, he's over in Gaston County, and it looks like it's coming down pretty good there right now. Brandon, what are you seeing?
Yeah, Brad, this is really the heaviest of the rain that we're starting to get. We did see some lightning strikes and hearing some thunder. And right now, just the rain is really pouring down. Let me show you and turn around. In really just about a minute or so, this parking lot where I'm standing at, give me 1 second, this parking lot where I'm standing at, it is just started to get covered with water as we're seeing some of that rain coming through the drain pipe that Brad had mentioned about the concerns, especially with this water, and as well as some areas prone to flooding, getting flooded. This rain is just coming down so heavily. I'm going to show you, this is my vehicle right here. I'm going to show you a little bit of just how heavy this rain is as it's coming down, and we're starting to see a little bit. Watch as the water is kind of brushing off from this wind, brushing off of my vehicle. And then over here, we were talking a little bit about that visibility. This is, give me one second, this is Highway 74 as you're coming into Highway 74 before you march into I-85. Just how heavy it is with the clouds and just how heavy the rain is. It's starting to let up just a little bit, but it is pouring down here. Still haven't heard of any damage or anything that is significant in terms of trees coming down. 1 second. Okay, we haven't heard anything in terms of trees coming down, but just the heavy rain and something to keep an eye on. Once I get off there, I'm going to check in with Highway Patrol to see if there are any car crashes or anything along those lines, especially as we're starting to get into the rush hour. But right now, just heavy rain. The wind is picking up a little bit, and just be careful, especially if you're coming home. I'll send it back to you, Brad, in the studio.
Yeah, this storm is really producing some heavy rain. And where Brandon is up in Gaston County, Thankfully, it's not severe, but that rainfall is a big deal. Traveling home on 85, you're going to run into some ponding of water and some slow going. Now, Chester County, you still have a little bit of time here before this enters, so we've got a good lead time on this. This is moving out of Whitmire, heading towards the southern part of Chester County. Again, basically the warning goes to I-77 at 5:45, but it's going to be close to Chester around 5:35, 5:40ish or so. And again, some large hail likely in here as well. So if you're in Chester County, a couple things I would do. Got the garage, put the car in there. If you can get it to a carport or get it under, maybe a tree or something to slow down the hail. Not that it will help completely, but there's some big hail in this storm. And if I look at the hail parameters real quickly, you could see there's some large hail right around Whitmire. So we're looking at some hail in there, probably close. I'm guessing that hail right in there is going to be close to about maybe an inch in diameter, maybe an inch and a half. So there's some golf balls coming out of that cell right there. So that little core of hail is pushing to the east as well. So just a heads up, this has got multiple hazards with it, and we're going to see wind and hail with this storm. I want to go back to that velocity data because we've got that really strong couplet right there. Boy, that's really strong. There's some strong winds in there. Pushing to the east right now at about 35 miles per hour. I'm going to go in here real quickly and just kind of see what are the strongest winds we have in this cell, because some of these are really starting to get up there, and we're getting 70 mile an hour winds, at least a couple of 40s and 50s in there. The other side, it's a little bit weaker. But man, look at that. If you got 68 inbound, 48 outbound, some really strong winds there, well over 100 mile per hour winds possible in this rotation here. That's 116 gate to gate. So we're seeing some really strong rotation within that cell. That's borderline EF1 type wind speeds there, maybe stronger. So there's the shift. The radar just gave us a new scan, and that's a thing to remember. The radar is taking a snapshot, so this thing is moving in between radar signatures. Why we look at that, I'm going to look at the correlation coefficient again just to see, and this is what I'm looking at here, so just to give you some transparency on what I'm doing, is I'm actually looking to see if there's what we call debris signatures showing up. And the area I'm looking for is right where that rotation is strongest. So the maroon's probably raindrops. It's kind of messy in here. The hail always kind of messes with the debris signature. When we see debris, it's because we have different size objects in the sky being lofted. Well, hail and raindrops are two different sizes, so they can sometimes give you a false sense of debris here. So it's hard to tell if that's really debris or not, but this storm definitely means business. In fact, we got a picture earlier today as this storm was moving through parts of the upstate of South Carolina, and this is what we saw. There's this shelf cloud, but I want you to look at the structure of this. That's a mesocyclone. That means, just for me looking at this storm is rotating when we see this structure to the storm. So thanks a lot for the tweet there, because this really helps Austin. As that storm was coming basically around the Lawrence area, moving towards Clinton, storm had some very strong rotation. Boy, look at this big appendage. This is Hook right here. Definitely have rotation in there. Every time you see this update at the radar, it is showing signs of getting stronger. The reason it's getting stronger, we've got strong southerly winds coming in here. There's nothing to the south of this storm to block the inflow. Storms, we always talk about, you may hear me say discrete cells by themselves are the ones you worry about, because storms that are rotating like to be by themselves. Other storms interfere with their inflow. This is on the southern edge of this line. It's got a feed of moisture. It is warm and humid down towards Columbia. It's in the mid 80s down there. So this is just pumping in all that warm, humid air, and it's actually riding a little bit more to the east as opposed to northeast. So if you imagine winds coming here, as the storm turns into those winds, it actually increases the wind shear or the rotation. So right in there, these right movers, we call them sometimes, are really, really dangerous storms. Let's look at that velocity data again. Right there between Whitmire and Carlisle. So heads up, Chester County. This is heading right for you. So this is heading right into southwestern Chester County. That is the storm, Chester, Union County till 5:45. Small section of Fairfield and Newberry counties, but honestly, it looks like this rotation is going to be moving into southwestern Chester County. So we're getting some live pictures there from the Chevy Storm Tracker. That's the heavy rain to the north. Thank goodness the rain to the north is just rain right at this point. We don't have anything severe in the northern part of this storm, and I'll go up there and show you real quickly. That is just a whole lot of heavy rain moving into Mecklenburg County. That's a good thing. You can see there's a little bit of wind in there, but the storms have collapsed to the north. The storms to the south, those are the ones that have been producing really dangerous winds as they've been moving in. And again, that rotation there is basically off the charts. We're getting what's called range folding. And what's going on here is we've got some what we call side load contamination down here. So that's not actually where our rotation is. Looks like it's right in here somewhere. And let me just quickly highlight how fast those winds are, because those are really flying in there. So we've got, we still have some incredibly strong winds associated with this. Now we're probably getting some contamination here. I don't know if we're getting minus 84, which is basically towards the radar, but these are really strong winds associated with this storm. We've got to keep an eye on this. Potentially could be a strong tornado if there is a tornado on the ground in that cell pushing off to the east. Yeah, that is off the charts type rotation down there, just to the southwest corner of Chester County. So a lot of cloud to ground lightning in this, likely some hail wrapping around the circulation as well as it moves into the southwest corner of the county. It's going to be a close call. You can see Fairfield and Newberry County right here. It's going to be right at the county line. So this is basically moving straight up, what is that right there? Highway 121, basically heading towards Highway 25. So right there where those two roads intersect is where we're going to see that rotation. So right in there is the strongest rotation. So moving towards the southwest corner of Chester County. Chris Mulcahy has been tracking this as well. And Chris, I keep keeping an eye on this storm, and I'm, unlike the storm to the north, which every scan, it got weaker, this one is showing signs of intensifying and getting stronger.
And Brad, I want to show you just that. So let's watch what's been happening over the last half hour. So we always look for the squiggles along there, but that's how it all forms. But since this is on the bottom, it's its own entity. So it's taking over what's more of a supercell type of characteristic, meaning that it's a rotating thunderstorm. Usually supercells will produce hail 100% of the time, and you have about a 30% chance of a tornado, even higher in this system. But watch what happens minute by minute. You see a little bit of that appendage that starts to form, but what's really concerning is you notice how it forms around there. You have this horseshoe. That is just that rotation where the rain is being wrapped around it. So we are actually looking at a hollowness in the rain where that tornado, or at least that funnel cloud, potentially could. It's the bright green when it turns to blue, and then it's the oranges that are on that yellow realm that really are showing the stronger winds. So as we mentioned before, most of the tornado warnings that we have seen recently, I would even say over the last year, we immediately go on air and then they start to weaken. This has been the exact opposite of that. So right now, the winds, I think, are easily up to about 85 to close to about 95 miles per hour. So that is going to be the big cause of concern. So I think that is in that EF1 range. That, at that point, could easily rip shingles off of a roof. But Brad, my computer's frozen right now, but just frozen on this image here really just shows how strong these winds are. So if you're watching from Leeds, Cool Branch, southwestern Chester County, anywhere really in the western side of Chester County, this is the real deal. This is a really strong signature. Now, likely, we are not going to see this travel all the way to the northeast since this is so strong, but as of right now, over the next hour, this is a storm that we're watching especially closely. This again is a very powerful system, so this tornado warning is certainly warranted. This could be extended if we don't show any weakening, so only strengthening over the last 20 minutes. Sarah?
All right, Chris, thank you. If you're just now joining us, we've been following this tornado warning in Chester County, the southern part of Chester County and surrounding areas until 5:45 p.m. tonight. So if you know anyone in the area, tell them to download our WCNC Charlotte mobile app to get the very latest, or turn on the TV so they can see if this is getting near their area. Brad, Chris was talking about this rotating thunderstorm and what a powerful system this is. Explain what a rotating thunderstorm is.
Yeah, when we mean rotating thunderstorm, we mean the updraft, which is the fuel for these storms. We often think of wind in the horizontal fashion, but in these severe thunderstorms, we have strong winds going up into the sky. In some cases, 80, 90, 100 miles per hour. Well, they're not just going straight up today. That is going up like a corkscrew, and it's wrapping basically up into the storm. And just like you would turn like a screw counterclockwise or clockwise, excuse me, to maybe go into a piece of wood, you're seeing that it's driving this warm, humid air way up into the sky. And this signature is honestly one of the strongest we have seen in quite some time. This storm continues to intensify as it moves into the southwest corner of Chester County. So Leeds, if you know anybody in this area, now thankfully there is sparse population here. There is still population and every single person is important, but the density isn't as much as we get closer to Chester. If you know anyone down here, please let them know this is a serious situation. Let me just quickly show you how strong some of these velocity signatures are, because I think even since Chris was talking, I would say we've got winds in excess of 120 miles per hour inside this cell. You know, some of these wind speeds, if I start going in here, we've got 60, 70 mile per hour winds basically going away from the radar, but at times I'm seeing 40 or 50 coming back the other way, which is pushing the gate-to-gate speeds well over 100 miles per hour. So very strong winds. You don't normally see winds this strong. And one of the things I want to show you is the winds are going like this here in those bright yellows, and then we've got the winds going like that. So right around Cool Branch, that's the area I'm zoomed in on. This is heading up towards Leeds and eventually Sandy River and then Chester. So heads up in Chester, this is basically heading right your way. I'll do a track right like this. So we'll take that track, and again, there is no reason to be in the path of this storm. If you are not in your sheltered location now, please do so. If you are in a mobile home or a vehicle, try to get to something better. Always improve your situation. Mobile homes are not as safe as a sturdy structure, but sometimes you may not have time to get in the car and go to a better structure. Go down to the corner gas station or go down to a friend's house. If you can do that, great. But if you don't, even so, get into the middle of the home. It's your last thing you can do. Go ahead and do that. But this is a dangerous storm. It's got very strong rotation as it moves into southern Chester County. So if you know anyone in Chester, go ahead, call them, text them, let them know there is a serious rotating thunderstorm, possible tornado on the ground heading into the southern part of the county, and it means business. It's by far the strongest signature we've seen. And you know, if you watch some of our coverage, you have probably never seen some of these colors actually show up on the first warn Doppler. Just to show you that rear flank downdraft is really wrapping into the storm. The winds alone, straight line, if it wasn't rotating, would be close to 70 or 80 miles per hour within that storm. So a very potent storm moving into the southwest corner of Chester County. I think Brandon Goldner is back out there alive again up in Gaston County. And real quickly, just to give you a reference where he is, we'll go up to the north and we've got just really heavy rainfall in and around Gaston County, but it's really causing some issues. We might see some minor flash flooding up there. Brandon, what are you seeing right now?
Well, Brad, the rain has started to slightly let up. It's been coming and going. Just a few minutes ago, it was incredibly heavy coming down. Also feeling a little bit of that wind. Actually, I'm going to flip around here and show you just a little bit this tree right here that was whipping in the wind just a little bit. We're seeing some of those little gusts that have been coming in here and there. It's definitely gotten a lot colder out here. I've been texting with some first responders trying to get some information on what's been going on, what they have been seeing, what they have been telling me. Trooper Ray Pierce with Highway Patrol has told me right now they haven't had anything really out of the ordinary in terms of car crashes, which is a good sign, especially as we're starting to get into this rush hour. I've been checking in with some other people, particularly in Gaston County, where you have a lot of traffic, a lot of population there as this rain is coming through. So right now I'm waiting to hear back from them, but just seeing that heavy rain, and I'm going to zoom in, just show you a little bit. One of the issues we're constantly seeing, especially when it comes to this flooding, is the storm drains and how a lot of this is blocked up, and we hear it a lot, especially in Charlotte. We see it a little bit in Gaston and Cleveland as well, just these storm drains being blocked and leading to this flooding. when this happened, just in a few minutes, this parking lot, this section of the parking lot just got flooded with heavy amount of water, a lot of it just coming down so quickly. And we heard in the distance just now a little bit of thunder, but right now, thankfully, it sounds like we're not experiencing any issues in terms of crashes or any serious damage just yet. We're going to keep an eye on that as more information continues to come in, and especially if you're driving, to be safe on the roads if you're coming from work. Send it back to you, Brad.
Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, good advice out there. I mean, rain at rush hour is always a problem. When it's coming down that heavily, as Brandon mentioned, you got to slow it down. Maybe just wait it out a second. This storm continues to produce very strong rotation and some of the strongest signatures I've seen. And I thought I was alone in that, but I finally got back to chat with the Weather Service office. And, you know, the GSP says this is some of the best structure they've seen with storms as well. It's over I would say less populated areas, less densely populated. There's still a ton of people down here, especially near Leeds, but this is in that northwest corner of Fairfield County. But I'm getting worried as it moves closer into Chester County. You start getting into some denser population area here. This is definitely an area where we could see this thing really produce some damage in there. There's definitely been some winds over 60, 70 miles per hour. And I'll quickly just show you some of the velocity data here, because there it is, that wind right there, especially right around the areas basically near Cool Branch and just to the south of the county line. So this is the Chester County line. There's Cool Branch right there. This whole area here is the rear flank downdraft. This is the winds wrapping around. And if there's a tornado, it's right on the leading edge of where that rear flank wraps back in to the updraft, which is coming in here. So between Leeds and Cool Branch, I mean, these are damaging winds right here. But clearly, if there's rotation, there's a tornado, it's probably right in there. So let me track that area, because that would be the area of concern. I'm going to track it basically to the northeast. We'll track it all the way to I-77. So you can see Richburg around 6 o'clock, Great Falls 6:06, probably going to pass just south of Chester. So there's Chester. If it stays to the south, it's going to be in a better spot, at least where there's less people in the way. But then it gets awfully close to Richburg, where population goes back up, and we get closer to I-77. So we're going to have some issues there. If you know anybody down in Chester County, please let them know. There's a significant potential that we have a tornado on the ground. I mean, you can actually see that appendage down in that area, some kind of a hook echo in there. So it's wrapping around, but it's hard to tell where the circulation actually is, because this is all rain wrapped and probably hail wrapped. There's hail wrapping around this system as well. And let's do a quick little Doppler slicer on this just to show you the hail, because I think the hail in this is going to be just as damaging in some locations as any wind. So we'll do a quick cross section, and you could just see the structure of this thing is just, it's pretty amazing. It's basically your classic textbook supercell, where we've got that hail just off the surface. And if you look, I'll drag this across as we slice it in half, and I'm going to stop it right there. Right there. So between 10 and 20,000 feet, these bright returns here, this is hail aloft. It actually hasn't made it to the surface yet. So underneath it, this hail is descending, is likely going to fall down. We've got this big anvil over the top, and then the rear flank's coming down here. So the tornado, if it is on the ground, it's somewhere down in this area on the southwest side. So just an incredible structure to this storm. And at the very least, this is producing damaging winds and maybe some golf ball size hail as it's pushing into Chester County. So if you have a car and you can get it to a garage or some kind of shelter, I would highly recommend that right now, because there is some large hail associated with this cell as well. Further north, the heavy rain is moving into the metro area, as Brandon was just mentioning. It's letting up a little bit. And this is a good sign for areas further east, because these storms seem to be outracing their energy. That's kind of what we expected today. They had a little bit more energy to get in here than we expected maybe last night, but this morning it looked like, yeah, maybe the western counties this was going to happen. But as we go to the east, the energy drops off. So that's why you're seeing the storms weaken. But also these storms to the north, they're being interfered with from the storms to the south. So their inflow, basically their source of fuel, is being blocked by this monster supercell, which has nothing blocking it, because look to the south. There's nothing south of that cell. So this one is likely going to track for a while. In fact, it could track into Lancaster County, Chesterfield, maybe Southern Union and Anson County. So just looking ahead down the road, those are areas that probably need to be ready. Make sure, if you don't have our WCNC Charlotte app, get it right now. Tell your friends to grab it. Turn on your notifications for warnings for your location at your house. It'll pop them on. You'll get that. We can stream live right now. If you pop it up, you're going to see us doing this right here live, so you can watch us in your safe spot as well. So again, this storm continues to push to the east-northeast at around 35 miles per hour. Tornado warning still in effect for Chester County till 5:45 this evening. And again, the area of greatest concern is southern Chester County, just south of Chester, Richburg, and Great Falls. So that's the area that we're keeping an eye on right now. There's the circulation right there. So Chris, we're keeping an eye on that cell as well. I know you are at home. Anything catch your eye that I missed there? Because that appendage is still pretty strong, and that gate-to-gate shear is getting stronger.
Well, I will say, Brad, at one point we were dropping, by the way, you can see the Chevy Storm Tracker just pulled up and we're about to hit the road. But one thing that did happen is we saw blues on the radar at one point, and that is the winds going towards the radar. So I think it did peak at one point, but this is still a very strong signature. Whenever you're seeing the yellows here, that's incredible. I think that easily is going to be 60-plus mile-per-hour winds without really looking at it. 66. So that's just the forward gate motion, and then you can factor in, I think, another 20 to 30 with that. So, Brad, I would not be surprised if we're really dealing with about 100-mile-per-hour winds. So right now, behind me, as the Chevy Storm Tracker is in my driveway, we're looking at just light to moderate rain here in northwest Charlotte. I think that you could have maybe some gusty winds associated with this, certainly picking up some heavier rain, but the focus right now is on Chester County. We've talked about the small signatures, broad rotation. Well, this is a massive area rotation, but it's really tight as far as the gradient goes from what's going towards the radar and what goes away from the radar. Recently, I've been following some of the storms that were in Texas and down to the southwest. Brad, this is more of a signature that we've been seeing from those strong Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi tornadoes that we really don't have here. So this is more of a supercell structure. Supercell means rotating thunderstorm. That's exactly what we have here. I think this is a long track system. Before we were dealing with what was a spin-up tornado type of scenario. I think that window has closed. What's wide open is this area of rotation. As Brad has said it, the National Weather Service has said it, and I will do this quote from Justin Lang. U.S. Union County, South Carolina storm has some of the best structure and strongest rotation we've seen around here for a very long time. It will be a miracle if this doesn't do anything. So right now we don't have any information on this storm because this isn't a very populated area, but it's headed towards a populated area. We're starting to see more recognizable locations as it's approaching south of Chester. So this isn't over, Brad. I'm about to hit in the Chevy Storm Tracker.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just checking with some of our spotters down there. Austin McCormick is a spotter of ours, actually a former student of mine at UNC Charlotte in the meteorology program, and he's down in that area actually tweeting some amazing pictures of this storm, and the structure is just impressive. And you know, from a meteorological standpoint, there's that rotating updraft. We call the mesocyclone. That's where the whole storm is rotating, and what happens underneath the mesocyclone is where the tornado forms. And the best way I can describe this is the way nature works is very similar to the way a lot of things work in physics. If you ever played tetherball, I loved that game as a kid. Remember, it's the pole with the rope and the ball attached to it, and you'd swing it around with your friend, and as the rope got smaller, it would spin faster and faster around the pole. Well, this happens in nature as well. When this broad circulation gets shrunk down, it causes it to spin quicker and quicker, and that's how you get these tornadoes to spin up. Anytime you can shrink a vorticity or rotating column of air, it's going to intensify, and that's what you always worry about. Below this, where you see that mesocyclone, this is where chasers would refer to this as the bear's cage. You don't want to be underneath there. That's where the dangerous weather is and where you possibly have a tornado. So again, Austin, thanks for these pictures. This is from Whitmire, which is just to the west of where this storm is, and you can see that was over in this area. So it's just off to the south. Let me show you. Whitmire's way down here. Carlisle's there. Leeds is up here. This is Chester. So I put another track basically right on top of that warning. And again, you can see now for Chester County only, as they just upgraded that while I'm on the air there, you can see Chester County warning, and that is basically where we're going to track this. Now, heads up, Lancaster County, you might be next. This is moving east. If I don't see this rotation weekend, I don't see any reason why we're not going to see another warning for Lancaster County. So guys, really dangerous storm down there. This storm is far different than the storm that moved into Cleveland County because the rotation was weakening as it was moving in. This storm has been intensifying as it's been pushing off to the east.
And if you're watching us, we are entering the 5:30 half hour here at WCNC Charlotte. We've been tracking a tornado warning making its way east across North Carolina. The latest track of that storm has a warning at Chester County, the southwestern corner of Chester County. The storm moving north to northeast, 35 miles per hour. If you know someone in that area, you should probably give them a call. Tell them to download the WCNC News app. You can get the live radar and watch our live stream via that, or just turn on your television and watch this track because our chief meteorologist has been tracking this for us. Our chief meteorologist, Brad Panovich, you just said something that I think people need to know. You said that Lancaster County could be next in terms of being in that danger zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm trying to give you a heads up. We know it's been in Chester for a while. We've had that warning up for Chester County, but here's the area where it's going. So if you live in Great Falls, if you live in Lancaster, if you live in Heath Springs, if you live in areas along Highway 9 from Lancaster into Chesterfield County, even extreme southern Union County, this storm, if you project it out, is moving in that direction. Do you need to seek shelter right now? No, but you need to grab our app, charge it up, grab everything, get that closet cleaned out, go grab the helmets, get ready, and pay attention to the weather for the next hour or 2 hours or so until this thing moves through. We can give you the all clear once this line here moves through. Now, there might be more later tonight, but at least temporarily, we can give you the all clear. This is an early heads up that you need to prepare. Now, if you live in a mobile home in these areas, that's why I'm telling you now, this is your chance to get into a car and go to a better structure, go to a grocery store, go to your friend's house, drive to the church. Wherever there's a better structure to get to, go there now. This gives you some time to do that. If you're closer to the storm, you don't have time to do that. You just got to get to the middle of your house and do the best you can. You can always improve your situation, but you always don't have the best situation available. So just grab whatever's the best available situation. I don't want you to be in a car, but if you are in a car and there's nowhere else to go, put that seatbelt on, lower your head, get as low as possible, and ride it out. Sometimes that's better than being outside. Now, I wouldn't want to be in a car either, but that's your best case scenario is to stay there. If you can, get to a sturdier structure. If you're on a road, you're driving on 77, you hear tornado warning ahead of you, pull off, get to a gas station, truck stop, Waffle House, wherever you can, and go and shelter there until the storm passes. Now, further north, where we had the warning earlier, thank goodness that storm has weakened, but boy, is it producing rain, moving into Mecklenburg and Gaston County. And Brandon Goldner, he's been in Gaston County all day, and you've seen a little bit of everything up there, Brandon, haven't you?
Yeah, Brad, absolutely. Right now, the rain is starting to taper off a little bit. You can tell, but the temperatures have just really dropped out here. It's gotten a lot colder. Still hearing a little bit from the distance of thunder right in that direction that you were talking about, Brad, that southeast direction that's really more towards those parts of South Carolina that you're mentioning where that severe storm is. Right now, from talking to Highway Patrol, they're not seeing anything out of the ordinary in terms of traffic and car crashes. Still waiting to hear back from Gaston County about any issues that they have been dealing with when it comes to crashes. No reports of damage just yet, just that rain still falling steadily, and we're starting to see a little bit, and let me flip around and show you just a little bit of what we have been seeing. And one of these areas that we're constantly talking about, we've done so many stories on about the issue of these drain pipes getting clogged up as a result of just the usual stuff that nature drops, as well as any sort of debris, and that's something that we'll definitely be keeping an eye on, especially those areas that are prone to flooding, particularly the South Fork, Catawba River, as well as other parts of the mountains. But thankfully, it hasn't been as bad as we were initially fearing, especially when it came to the possibility of crashes or any sort of damage. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. Now send it back over to you, Brad.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. So you're up in Gaston County and further south, basically 321. If you go all the way south, back into parts of Chester County, that's the area we're watching between Cornwell and Blackstock. Those areas down there is where we have a supercell. This is a potent storm, which in the middle of your screen, you can see producing strong winds, but the rotation is right here near the county line, Fairfield County, as well as areas of Chester County. So that's right where that circulation is. And I'll put back up the warning. You can see it's in effect here for about 10 more minutes. Here we are. We got the current time up in the corner of your screen, 5:35. This warning goes until 5:45. Boy, and I tell you what, there's some big hail here. The rotation is here, but there is some large hail in the northern part of the storm. So north of the rotation is where the hail is. The structure of the storm, heavy rain and hail here. back southwest side is where you see the tornado in these cells, and that's the area we're talking about. So anybody in southern parts of Chester County, and really start thinking about eastern Chester and eventually Lancaster County, you need to get to that safe spot. And I know Bill McGinty has those safe things you need to do. And one of those, Bill, it's really vital, and we talk about this all the time, Helmets can really save your life.
Yeah, you know, Brad, you got to have a plan going into this kind of thing, and it's the during. Protect your head and neck. It's very, very important. A bike helmet is always a great idea. Afterwards, be very, very careful. These storms move through quickly, and they can cause a lot of damage out in the streets and around the house. So as Brad said earlier, most people don't wear their shoes in the house. So take in a good pair of sneakers or a pair of work boots with you if you're heading into that interior room. You're going to need them afterwards. Stay away from power lines. Outside, the damage can be fast and furious. Take a lot of photos, video with your phone if you can, because your insurance adjuster is going to need that. It's always a great idea. Just be prepared. Download our WCNC Charlotte news app. Inside the app, we've been telling you this afternoon. You can get all the radars. You can watch us online. You get all Brad's radars, everything you need to know, including all the up-to-minute forecasts. Brad?
Yeah, Bill, that app is, I'm telling you, it's going to be a lifesaver to you someday, because not only will you get the warning, you can watch the live stream anywhere. You don't even have to be at home. You don't have to be in our market. You can watch that just about anywhere. So especially when traveling, most of us always have our phone with us. It's going to be your lifeline to this information, and you can take it into that safe spot, because we want you to hunker down until this passes. So if you live west of 321 in Chester County, I'm going to give you the all clear, because the worst of the storm is past you. So now it's moving towards Richburg, and just there's Richburg at the top. Great Falls is right here. Great Falls, beautiful area. Love that area. Go down there and talk to the school all the time down in Great Falls. Very rural part of southeastern Chester County, but beautiful part right near Great Falls as you get close to the Catawba River down there, hence the name. You got a nice little rapid and waterfall down there moving along the Catawba River going south. This is going to move into eventually eastern Chester County, then cross over into Lancaster County. So we'll see if it holds together that rotation, but it doesn't look like it's weakening. The reason I say it's not weakening, because to the south we've got this strong inflow that is just producing a ton of fuel for this storm. In fact, I'm going to draw the inflow on there. It's warm, humid air coming in from the south. There's nothing blocking it. So this storm is uninhibited. It's got a fuel, and it's tracking due east. Instead of moving northeast, it seems to be moving more east. And when it intersects this southerly wind, that actually causes the rotation to enhance, well, we call it helicity. It actually wraps it up. It's like basically enhancing itself. It churns into those winds. Those right churners are always a worry. So this storm doesn't show any signs of weakening right now as it's pushing off to the east. Now, our Chris Mulcahy is in the Chevy Storm Tracker, and I know, Chris, you're heading towards these storms. Where are you right now, and where are you heading currently?
Well, right now I got picked up, so I appreciate Mike Hansen, and we're going to be heading right south towards that system. But right now we're in Northwest Charlotte. We are right on the intersection where northbound, southbound 85. This is off of Beatty's Ford Road. So let me turn around in front of us. This is just light rain, but this area is about to see some of the heavier rain that is about to pass, and that's going to pass Interstate 77. This has been quite the evolution. So what you've been seeing, if radar is on your screen, it was widespread rain. We saw those kinks. We saw those hooks along this line, but now all the energy is concentrated to what we would call the bookend of the storm, the very bottom. This right here is getting all the instability. This is getting all of the ingredients necessary to keep this going. Now, if I were to find a silver lining with this storm system in Chester County, right now it's on a path that is not a very populated area. We can thank our lucky stars that this isn't further in York County, staying together in Gaston to Mecklenburg County. But regardless, if anyone's in the path of this storm, I guarantee they're going to be seeing what's either going to be a rotating wall cloud or a funnel cloud. But Brad, as we've been mentioning consistently, we likely are looking at what would be a rain-wrapped tornado, but there's still no verification that this is the case. We have no damage reports as of right now from the National Weather Service, just because of where this is. This is in southern
Chester County that not a people live. However, I think it's going to be tracking a lot further along. So the rotation is going to pass just north of Great Falls. We're going to be springing around Fort Lawn, Springdale, Lancaster. You're very close to this. So it's typically the precursor to any tornadic activity is going to be that main core. So we have a core, a hail core, followed by the rotation behind that. That's also what's known as the bear cage. When you're in the bear cage, at that point is any chance for a tornado, or in this case, I think it's going to be a rain-wrapped tornado, but likely, say if you are watching from Great Falls, you can see a storm system that is off in the distance coming from the west. You're likely going to see a little appendage that's going to be coming down from this storm, and then that's where we're going to see the rotation. And as we have been running through the runs on the radar, this is visibly holding together. I think it hit a peak, but we're still rocking. If this was indeed a tornado on the ground, yet not confirmed, that would produce winds anywhere from a range of 65 to about 110 miles per hour. So that's EF0 to EF1 strength. But if you look at the radar close to the Charlotte area, still some very, very heavy rain, but you're not dealing with those pinks. The pinks that we're seeing on the radar right now aren't necessarily just picking up on rain rates anywhere from 2 to 3 inches. We're also picking up on that hail. So there's a threat in the southern parts of Chesterfield County. If you're watching from Lancaster County, you are up next. This is not the typical scenario that we see those spin-up tornadoes. They come up, down, they come back up, and then we wait for the next run. This is a typical supercell. These are usually long-lived storms. They go on for a long time, and right now we're on Interstate 77 as that heavier rain is now starting to pass. This is the yellows that you typically see on the radar. A little bit of light actually glistening off into the distance, but if you're planning or about to hit the road on Interstate 77, well, the heaviest rain is about to pass. So I would try to hold off for the next 20 to 30 minutes. We'll have a little bit of that lighter rain, or what's called stratiform precipitation. That's pretty much just the leftover rain on the backside of this system. But if we go back to the radar south of Rock Hill, what I think is really interesting about this system is it's starting to outrun even what's happening around Rock Hill. So this is turning into its own entity. It is now starting to take over. We see the classic notches. We're seeing the classic brightness, which is representing that we are seeing maybe some golf ball, at least some quarter-size hail. And look ahead of me. This is Charlotte. You can see those darker clouds. You can only imagine what we're seeing off in the distance in Chester County and south of Chester itself. So again, if you're watching from Lancaster County, even though these tornado warnings are only going to be going on for the next 2 minutes, actually the one that we have here, I don't think that they're going to end this one, Brad, just because of how well put together this storm system is. But here's just a testament of what you're driving out to outside of any tornado warnings. The winds are fairly light, but some very heavy rain and not a great travel pretty much wherever you look up and down Interstate 77.
All right, Chris, thank you. So let's reset here. If you're just joining us, we've been following this tornado warning in Chester County, the southern part of Chester County and surrounding areas until 5:45 p.m. Just a couple more minutes. This is a powerful system that doesn't appear to be weakening. The strongest we've seen in quite some time. And Brad, you said you anticipate this tornado warning to move into Lancaster County next, right?
Yeah, and two things are going to happen. This is in a sliver of eastern Chester County, which is likely going to see a warning or severe thunderstorm warning, because at the very least we've got damaging winds and hail in this storm. But here's the interesting thing: once it crosses the county line, the Lancaster County area is forecasted by the Columbia Forecast Office. Chester County is handled by the Greer, South Carolina Forecast Office. So if you ever wonder why you get these weird warnings, sometimes they don't go around the county lines, that's because. So they're likely going to be some kind of a piecemeal here. You might see a warning pop up that has half of the county or part of Chester, and then the rest of Lancaster we added. But either way, I suspect we'll see a severe thunderstorm warning, because even if there's not, here's what I'm going to tell you. Take this storm seriously. It's got large hail and damaging winds, and I'll show you why. Because the radar signature right there, if anything, right on 77, right there, near 77, what road is that? That's 97 near Rossville. There's a tight circulation right in there. So this thing is wrapping up right in here as it crosses 77. So hopefully people on 77 have got off the interstate. Just looking at Chris's shot going south, I mean, he's still way up here by the North Carolina border, and the ominous nature to that cloud was pretty impressive. You could see to the north it looks like another circulation near Richburg, so maybe two separate circulations. But potentially we're going to see this warning reissued to the east, there might be a little gap. The warning has actually expired. But here's what I want you to do. I'm going to draw a track on this because of how serious this is. If you see your town or anywhere near your town in this track, I want you to go ahead and treat this like a severe thunderstorm warning with potentially a tornado popping up quickly. So this is going to move towards Great Falls at 5:48, Lancaster right around 5:51. That's the right near the airport. In the city of Lancaster about 5:59, so 6 o'clock. Heath Springs 6:09, and then heading over into Chesterfield County and Kershaw County closer to 6:20. So Fred, the warnings have expired. That's the good news, but the threat is not gone. There's still a risk for large hail, damaging winds, and we could still see a tornado pop up. So don't be surprised if there's another tornado warning issued here in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
All right. Well, we certainly know there's been some damage that we've seen thus far. We just got some photos into our newsroom. These are from the manager at the Dollar General in Chester, South Carolina. You can see there that rain ponding in the parking lots there, coming down, putting traffic at a standstill in that area. And you can see what they're dealing with there. We called multiple businesses in the area. We know that the storms caused at least one of those businesses, a gas station and a Dollar General, along with a restaurant, to pause their operations while all of this was happening. As a reminder, if you can safely do so, you can be a part of our coverage by sending photos to our newsroom. Just text them to 704-329-3600. I want to check in now with our Chris Mulcahy, who is in the Chevy Storm Tracker. Chris?
Yeah, Fred, to give you a good example, I'll quickly switch for me. This is what you can expect on Interstate 77. We're at a standstill right now, and we're not moving just because the amount of rain and the amount of water that is quickly accumulating here on the roads. So to put this in perspective on the radar, those are those bright reds. So this is the worst of the rain. You're looking at the peak rain that's moving through Uptown right now. So that means areas off towards the west, I would say close to Gastonia. You're seeing a much lighter to moderate rain that where Brandon Goldner is at this time, but we can't move our camera. But if you look very closely just along these guardrails, that water is outrunning us right now. So the water is flowing down this bridge quicker than we're moving in the traffic here on Interstate 77. So flash flooding is a concern. Luckily, this is not a slow moving system. It's pretty average as far as what these type of systems typically bring, but this is the peak. This is the heavy rain that you can expect. The wind's really not all that bad. You can see the trees barely moving, so we're not really dealing with the outflow of this system. I think it's that one hunk, that bottom, that little bookend to this system that we were just showing that was producing a tornado warning in Chester County that's sucking all the energy away. But regardless, even though we don't have the severe weather here in the Uptown area, this is not a great drive here on Interstate 77. So if you're about to leave, maybe give yourself a half hour if you can, because traffic is not great because of the rain and just not great conditions to drive in. I'm Chris Mulcahy, reporting from the Chevy Storm Tracker.
All right, Chris. Well, just as you mentioned that, as I suspected, we had a severe thunderstorm warning issued for this same storm, which I knew we probably would just because it's potentially got some large hail and damaging winds. And there you go. There's the new warning now issued for Lancaster County. So again, while this is not a tornado warning, I kind of want you to treat these like potentially we could have a tornado within this cell because it's had a history of producing some damaging winds within this cell. So the potential there is still there that we're going to see a tornadic storm develop at any minute because of the history of this thing. And let me widen this out. And this is actually a very large severe thunderstorm warning. It includes Chesterfield, Lancaster, and parts of Kershaw County. So they're going to warn for this cell all the way into Chesterfield. And if you've been watching our coverage, you know we kind of gave you a heads up for this. This is where this storm is going. I don't anticipate that it's going to weaken much. And let me just quickly tell you this warning because it's got what we call a tornado tag in it. And what does that mean? Severe thunderstorm warnings aren't all created equal, believe it or not. Sometimes they'll issue a severe thunderstorm warning and they'll put in there possible tornado within this storm. That means it could produce a tornado with little or no warning. So this is a heightened severe thunderstorm warning because it has a history of producing rotation and a tornado could be possible at any moment. Winds are 70 miles per hour. Hail is about golf ball size, so 1.5 inch in diameter. So if you live in Lancaster or Chesterfield County, you're going to want to get the car in the carport, the garage, or do whatever you can to protect it because we've got damaging hail come in. Now, for the Charlotte area, it's been mostly all rain. We've got some video today from the Lake Wylie area of those heavy downpours moving in. You could see it was really coming down at times. A lot of folks sending me pictures and videos from around the region of the really heavy rain. The good news for the Charlotte area, the severe threat is much, much lower because things are kind of stabilized. This storm to the south is robbing all of the fuel that could be coming north into our storm. So for the Charlotte area, we're looking at just a miserable rain. So if the kids had football, baseball, soccer practice, probably getting soaked right now and probably canceled a lot of those activities. But the main action is right here, this storm. And just let me do a quick storm track on that because now that we know the warning goes that far out, we can do a track all the way into Chesterfield County. So we'll do that. And here's the updated track. So again, anybody in the path of that storm, you see your town or you're anywhere near these towns, all the way to Pageland, Chesterfield, Patrick, around 7 to 7:15, that's where we have the potential for damaging winds, large hail, and yes, a tornado could form. Now, the view cam, we're showing the view cam in the preview there, just a crazy downpour coming through uptown Charlotte right now. You can see how heavy that rain is actually coming down. And as you saw from Chris Mulcahy's shot, and I can attest to this just looking at the traffic patterns in Mecklenburg County, 77, 85, 277, Independence, it's just stopped. Everything is stopped. I'm looking at the traffic, it is just wall-to-wall cars everywhere. And a lot of this is because it's rush hour, but also heavy rain has slowed everybody down and it's just caused a lot of gridlock out there. So thankfully, the storms over us aren't severe because the worst case scenario is have cars stuck in traffic with severe storms or even tornadoes heading their way. So the good news is we don't have severe weather in the metro area, but it is causing some gigantic travel issues right now. This is the main action right now, moving into Lancaster County. Let me widen this out just a second here. Let me take that off. There's the storm. I want to show you real quickly the velocity data. So we're going to look and see if there's any more of that rotation in there because that's the thing I've been watching. And again, Great Falls, we've got... there's still a hint of rotation in there. And again, that's why the tornado tag is in the severe thunderstorm warning right around Great Falls. There's a little bit of rotation there. It's crossing over, basically going from 77 east into Great Falls, crossing over the county line, going into Lancaster County, right over the Catawba River there. So this is pushing east into Lancaster County. So this is the area of concern. I just want you to go ahead. If you're east of here towards Pittman Crossroads or maybe just south of Belltown in Great Falls, get in your shelter location. Just stay there for right now. It's not going to hurt you to stay there for about 10, 15 minutes until this storm passes. At the very least, get to the middle of the house, even if you're not in the shelter location, away from windows in case trees or debris are flying. This is definitely has potential to drop a tornado with little or no warning. So Fred, we're going to keep an eye on this storm. Severe thunderstorm warning, and I don't say severe thunderstorm warning only because it has the potential to produce a tornado with little or no warning currently.
Brad, really quickly, I want to ask you because Chris brought this up earlier. He said he was talking about the difference in this storm, that this was a supercell versus a traditional type of storm and how the intensity in this made that more dangerous. Can you explain the difference that we're seeing with this system that's moving in?
Yeah, the system has a lot of wind shear associated with it down here to the south. That wrapping up there, that the inflow from the south is basically allowing for the storm to continue to produce very damaging winds, even if they're straight line. The potential for rotation is there, but just the wind energy alone is off the charts. And I'm going to widen this out to show you real quickly. If I widen this out, you can see to the south of the storm, there's nothing down here. So this storm has basically a open area of moisture and warm air to feed into it. The fuel source is uninhibited by any other storms. So that makes this storm much more dangerous than any other storms. When I used to storm chase in the plains, sometimes you'd always pick out that last storm on the dry line or on the line of thunderstorms because you knew this was going to happen. This is going to be the storm that's going to be the strongest as it pushes off to the east. So that's why this one, Chris was mentioning that in particular, potentially had the strongest circulation. And every time I look at this, the rotation is really, really strong. Now the question is it down to the ground? Now we're pretty far from the radar, but just looking at the rotation here, let me quickly, we've got some 50, 60 mile per hour winds in there. On the east side, they're a little weaker, but just alone, you're probably talking, right there, that's 75 mile per hours, mile per hour of gate to gate, we call it wind shear, basically wrapping up. So in this area right here, basically pushing to the east, that's where we could have rotation. And even if you don't have rotation, wind is wind, so we say that all the time. 60, 70 mile per hour winds, that's going to damage roofs, break windows, and bring down trees and power lines, Fred.
Yeah, all the reason to get in a safe place and do as we say, get away from windows, get into an inner room, get your helmets ready, download our app, make sure your phone is fully charged, and keep it here. You've been watching this tornado warning for the past couple of hours now. As a reminder, as I just said, download the WCNC News app so you can always get updated information on your phone. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Dr. Oz is guest hosting Jeopardy!
Our two-time returning champ has now come back from third place 2 days in a row.
Can he do it again?
A very close match.
Next Jeopardy!
Tonight at 7 on WCNC Charlotte.
Is your car giving you a field day?
Bring it in. We'll fix that.
All right, let's go open workspace.
Yep, testing 1 2 1 2.
My check 1 2.
Check 1 2 3 4 5.
Well, this is turning into a straight line wind event. Yay! I sure do. Glad to be here. This is turning into a straight line wind event. So hurrah! Huzzah! Still a chance, but as of right now. I appreciate your applause both times. It means a lot. What's very upsetting is I was pretty much almost done on my web script and then this happened, but I just realized I never saved it. I know. Woe is me. Cheez-It, but...
Yeah, it's the verifying favorite.
First tonight at 6, we've been watching for the chance of tornadoes and strong storms all across our area. Here's a live look at the first warned Doppler radar. You see that big system moving over us right now. In the past 2 hours, we've seen tornado warnings in several counties in our area, Chester, Union, and Cleveland. This system has been making an impact as it moves across the southeast.
And take a look at this terrifying new video out of Alabama where there were several reports of tornadoes today. This is in Pelham, Alabama. That is just south of Birmingham. You can see that storm hit the ground and lightning from it. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Brad, this is a strong system that came through quickly.
Let's producing some of the severe storms we have in our area. Now, most of the storms have weakened a little bit, but we still have severe thunderstorm warnings for a big chunk of Lancaster, Chester, and Chesterfield County to the south. Now, this is a storm that in particular has produced damaging winds and possible rotation. We had several reports of damage along this cell, which is now moving basically out of Chester County and into Lancaster and Chesterfield County. We can go back to Weather 1, guys. We had a little computer blip there, but you can see the cell between Lancaster down to Great Falls. We're getting some reports of large hail with this system, and I can tell you back to the west in areas around Carlisle, Leeds, Whitmire, we all had reports of trees, power lines, and some damage. We don't know if it was a tornado or straight line winds, but we're getting numerous reports of damage from this storm back to the west. So if you live ahead of this storm, and I'm going to do a quick storm track on it just to show you as it pushes to the east, the timing of this, treat this thunderstorm warning as if it's a tornado warning. I want you at the very least to get to the middle of your house, away from the outside walls and windows, because this storm has had a history of damaging winds, wind-blown hail up to golf ball size, and possible tornadoes, that if you live anywhere in this path, to please stay in shelter until it passes. This is not a normal severe thunderstorm warning. This storm has had a long history of producing damage and likely could be producing a tornado. Real quickly, let me show you where that rotation possibly still is. We can still detect it on the radar just east of Great Falls. You see this bright yellow area? Those are strong winds away from the radar. Basically, the winds in there right now are getting up there 60, 70 miles per hour at times. Look at that, 69 mile per hour winds away from the radar. We're not seeing it as strong from the Columbia radar, which is a hair closer. I'm going to show you the Columbia radar. You can see it shows that rotation, but a little bit weaker. So for that reason, this is likely mid-level rotation and not near the ground, but it's still producing damaging winds and the possibility of some large hail. And the hail size so far has been golf ball size hail. So we do have a severe thunderstorm warning for all of these counties. Most of these go until about 6:30 this evening. I'll be tracking those and let you know if there's any updates coming up in just a couple minutes.
Well, that's right now. Meteorologist Chris Mulcahy reporting from the Chevy Storm Tracker. We're looking at lighter rain now here on Interstate 77, so good news there. Really, I think the worst of it has passed uptown. Heaviest rain is now a little bit further off towards the east of the 485 loop, so likely if you're watching from Matthews to Mint Hill over towards Harrisburg, Concord, you're about to see that rain pick up. But this is all associated, which was just a line of thunderstorms. And at one point, it turned into a bow echo, but the winds weren't especially strong through the Charlotte area, but the heaviest rain is now through moving into Weddington, Waxhaw, but we're still keeping an eye, of course, down to the south, which is going to be around the Lancaster area. Now, we're seeing still a few notches associated with this system, but what I'm happy to say is that even though it does have a tornado tag, this is moving faster. It's moving at about 55 miles per hour off towards the east. So one, the rain isn't going to sit as long. Two, the faster a storm moves, the better chance that it's turning into more of a straight line wind event. But still, south of Lancaster, east of Great Falls, we're still seeing some signatures that could allow this to recirculate, to see a little bit more rotation with this system. But we always love to see the systems move faster. But there's also a catch with that. The faster a system moves, the stronger the winds can be. So where you're looking right now, we're heading southbound on Interstate 77. Traffic has been really at a standstill. When we had the heavier rain move through over the last 15 minutes, traffic was barely moving. The water on the side of the roads was outpacing me. And that's exactly what this storm is doing. You can see some flashes of lightning off into the distance. Not great travel for the meantime. Meanwhile, areas west of here, such as around Gastonia, over to Clover, you have a little bit of a blip of rain that could be affecting you, but a lot of us are starting to be in the clear for now. But this is a widespread system. We have a lot more activity down to the southwest, so the rain is not done. If you freshly put grass seed down, the lawn is going to love this. But we're still keeping a close eye now east of Interstate 77, south of Charlotte. That's where the worst weather is associated with this system. But this system as a whole is a big deal for the southeast United States. Definitely a big system. As for us, we're seeing that tornado damage or possible tornado damage and severe thunderstorm damage down to the south, but wind is wind. Anyone watching from Lancaster County, please be careful. And if you're driving here on 77 or around the Charlotte area, drive safe. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy, reporting from the Chevy Storm Tracker.
Chris, thank you. Continuing our coverage tonight, we want to check in with Brandon Goldner. Brandon's been out in Kings Mountain tracking the conditions. Brandon, what do you see out there?
Well, Fred, this particular event, we really dodged a bullet. Kings Mountain is really in that nexus between Gaston County and Cleveland County. Just speaking to Gaston County EMS, they've had several crashes, but thankfully all minor injuries. A lot of congestion, particularly on 85 right now. The rain is really almost to the verge of stopping. Just a little bit of light rain here and there. Cold temperatures right now. No reports of damage in either Cleveland or Gaston that we've heard of just yet. Live in Kings Mountain, Brandon Goldner, WCNC Charlotte.
All right, be sure to download the WCNC Charlotte app for any new information. Fred?
All right, a major announcement about the COVID-19 vaccine. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper says the remainder of Group 4 will be eligible on March 31st, and all adults in the state will be eligible to get the vaccine starting April 7th. That is less than 2 weeks from now. The governor saying he's encouraged by the speed we're moving at and the growing supply of vaccines. WCNC Charlotte's Chloe Leshner has more.
The vaccine rollout started off slow. The first shipment arrived at Atrium Health on December 14, 2020, and the medical director of infection prevention, Dr. Katie Passaretti, was the first in the state to roll up her sleeve.
When people interviewed me a year ago, I was like, maybe first quarter we'll have a vaccine and some teeny tiny supply. Now we've vaccinated 25% of the I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Just 100 days later, Governor Roy Cooper is moving ahead full steam.
The biggest change will happen on April 7th, when we will open eligibility to Group 5. And that means all adults will then be eligible for the vaccine.
Right now, 1 in 5 adults in the state are fully vaccinated. The process is picking up speed and the supply is growing.
Early on, the issue was, do we have enough supply for those most at risk? And I think that's less so now. It's more, we're going to have the supply. We just need to get vaccines in arms. So I'm personally okay where we are right now with opening it up.
At one point, the tables will turn and the supply will exceed the demand. Health officials from the top down stressing the next challenge will be encouraging hesitant people to learn more and ultimately get vaccinated. For Dr. Passaretti and everyone working to get shots in arms, there are signs of progress.
Say I'm 100 days in, I'm still healthy and I've had no ill effects, and we're seeing more and more people, and I'm excited for more and more people to get to 100 days out from vaccination. So.
Of course, there's a lot of information to take in about vaccines and booking appointments. You can text the word vaccine to 704-329-3600. We'll text you back with a link to our mobile vaccine page where you can find a list of resources to figure out when you're eligible and how to make an appointment.
And starting tomorrow, we'll see an easing of the coronavirus restrictions in place in North Carolina. Here's what is changing for you. First, you can expect to see more people pretty much everywhere you go. Places like retail stores and salons can now open at full capacity. Other businesses like restaurants, breweries, and gyms can also have more customers inside, and no more alcohol curfew. Businesses can serve you as late as they like. WCNC Charlotte's Kendall Moore spoke with gym owners about the big changes and what that means for their business.
You can see we still have our chalkboard up in the window. We just left at the beginning of February.
B Yoga is used to teaching flexibility. This past year, applying that lesson to its business, switching to virtual and outdoor classes amid the pandemic.
We switched pretty immediately over to doing virtual classes on Zoom, and then we did classes outdoors all throughout the summer, all the way into December, actually.
Exhale, full, step or float back. Even though the studio could open at a small, limited capacity indoors last September, the owner says the demand for in-person classes just wasn't the same, ultimately deciding not to renew the lease on the physical space.
The capacity restrictions didn't really play a huge part in it because the revenue had already dropped from day one. So really the whole year was really difficult to maintain the space.
Now, almost any space outdoors and online is becoming their yoga studio, starting a yoga collective with teachers across the Carolinas.
Not having the overhead of the lease is going to allow us to really open up yoga to become more accessible for the community at more affordable rates.
The pandemic strengthening the business.
We just are really grateful that we've been able to provide yoga every single day during the entire pandemic, and we're not stopping now.
As it stays flexible for what the future holds.
Kendall Morris reporting. Turning now to Capitol Hill, the big topic today addressing health disparities within our nation. Medical leaders say the pandemic has further wedged the gap in health treatment and accessibility for minority communities. Senators and top health officials across the country, including Atrium Health President and CEO Gene Woods, say this crisis has put a spotlight on the issue. Woods spoke at Senate committee hearings saying this problem hits especially hard for him.
As one of the very few CEOs of color leading one of the largest academic health systems in the country, I was profoundly distressed to see Black and brown people die disproportionately of COVID. It was extremely personal for me. They could have been members of my own family.
Woods went on to discuss some of the work Atrium Health has done to address the inequity issue head on, such as working with local pastors and community leaders to expand testing sites across our area.
Still to come, people who have lost their job in the pandemic have cracked the code to getting back into the workforce. How a partnership between the city and
Welcome back. A live look at the first warned Doppler radar, that big storm system making an impact. We've got a breaking headline here now, a tornado warning for Charlotte. We're going to go to Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich, who is watching this. Brad?
Looking at the radar here and saw this quick spin up. This occurred right in the eastern part of Mecklenburg County, southern part of Cabarrus, northern Union, and really parts of, I would say, Stanley County. Let me show you this velocity couplet, because right here, you see Midland right there, and the town of Brief, there's Clear Creek. There's that quick spin up. So we saw this quick spin up. Now this is in between the 4 counties, basically. Mecklenburg here, Cabarrus, Stanley, Union. So it's right there. Quick spin up. This is exactly one of those things that comes up quick and goes away. But I was just looking at the radar and literally tweeted out, like, heads up, we got a rotation spinning up, because it was just happening so quickly. You can see that there's Unionville. Here's Charlotte. This is Mint Hill. Here's Matthews. There's Big Lick and New Salem. There's where that rotation is. So let me quickly put a track on that tornado warning. So that is up until 6:30 this evening. Now, it's a short fused warning. It's basically pushing due east. So basically over Stanfield, Locust, Big Lick, and Oakboro. That's the area that it's moving over. It's probably not going to last long. The fact that this warning is only 15 minutes long is pretty much telling you how quickly this thing probably spun up and then went back down. But that is a pretty tight circulation just south of the Cabarrus County line and the Union, Meck, Stanley County line. They're all coming together here. So, this is why it's going to be confusing with warnings sometimes. We don't issue warnings for the whole county. We issue them for where the storm is. So when you see what we call the polygon, and I'll pop it back up here, let me throw it up on the screen. It's that pink area. That's the warning. Okay, we just got a new warning for Stanley County. So basically, the Raleigh office is going to help add on to the warning to give us one continuous warning into Stanley County. Reason you see that kind of weird shape, 2 different forecast offices. That's coming from Raleigh. This one's coming from Greer, South Carolina. So there's our circulation just east of Charlotte. This is the same cell which possibly produced a tornado. We got at least 2 warnings out of it back to the west. It weakened, and then it pushed to the east, and it started wrapping back up, basically because it got away from the other storm. So let me widen this out, and I'll show you kind of how it's embedded in this line. It's kind of in a weird spot, but notice how it's kind of notched in here. The line drops here and goes south. This is kind of a weird spot here where it sticks out, and that's why we've got that warning. So the areas we're talking about, basically going into eastern parts of Mecklenburg County, you're already out of it, Mecklenburg County. In really northern Union County, it's barely in the county. It's that southern tip, kind of where that little area comes together there for Cabarrus. This is really about Stanley County now, because this is moving into Stanley County, south of Locust, Stanfield, Big Lick area. So it's basically pushing due east. And if we go in real close there, you can see there basically 601, which runs right here. And then this is the Stanley County line. This is the Cabarrus County line. It's moving right in here. So we've got a lot of farms here. This is going to cross over, then move into the south central part of Stanley County. This warning is only up for that part of the county until 6:15, but the Stanley County warning is up until 7 o'clock. So this warning is going to expire pretty quickly because it's almost out of that area, and it's going to move into parts of Stanley County. So that tornado warning is going to be up for a little bit longer, almost 45 minutes, as it pushes off to the east. That thing spun up super quick, and I'm going to go back a couple frames just to show you how quickly this happened. You could see it was just a push of wind. Watch what happens here. Right here through Mecklenburg, doesn't look like much. Watch it move east. And then right there, just east of Mint Hill, basically on 218, heading out towards the old Sycamore community, started to crank up right there and then pushed out, wrapped up quickly. And if we go to right now, it's pushing out again. So that was a quick spin up. I'll loop that a couple more times just to show you how fast that spun up as it moves to the east. Now it is flying. That one is probably moving closer to 45 miles per hour as it pushes off to the east. Again, this is a tornado warning based on Doppler radar. We don't have any confirmation on the ground here, but we have a lot of spotters out here, so I'll be curious to see if we get any reports. Chris Mulcahy is in the Chevy Storm Tracker, and Chris, 2 things I know you've experienced a lot today: a lot of heavy rain and a lot of traffic. It has been crazy out there trying to get around with that heavy rain, but this new warning is exactly what we were talking about when this all started. QLCS, quick spin up on this squiggly line north of Charlotte.
Yeah, Brad, what I think has been really interesting is we've had the 2 worlds of tornado warnings. One, just like you said, the quasi-linear system. That means you have the squiggles along the line, quick spin up. about 90% of our tornadoes are usually from that realm. Meanwhile, we had one down in the south, which was a different scenario. So right now we're here on 485. This is around marker 62.8, and we're pulling up on exit 61. So we're not going to be able to catch up to the storm, but likely this is going to be the scenario that we were talking about before, that it was a quick spin up and now it's starting to weaken. Already by the time that Brad was talking, for a 2-minute time frame, we saw the tight rotation. Now we're starting to see it spread out a little bit more. Doesn't mean that it's done. It could spin back up again, but this system fell apart, but then it regenerated. Thunderstorms and tornadoes do this all the time, where they start to loosen up and then they tighten back up the rotation. So I think that we'll continue to see more scenarios like that. As for the rain, good things are happening around the Charlotte area. About a half hour ago, you couldn't even see in front of us. Traffic was at a standstill. The winds weren't all that bad, which is good, but wind is wind. That spin-up tornado sometimes underneath the circulation, so say if it is a rotating wall cloud or you just have rotation in general, that's where you can feel the winds along that. So yeah, we're not out of the woods quite just yet, but showing how fast this is moving is also a telltale sign that this is not going to last here long. The average forward speed of a tornado is usually around 30 miles per hour, but they can range anywhere from 0 to 70. As for this case and scenario, I think that this tornado warning was warned because they saw the rotation. That is disappearing, but doesn't mean that we're done yet. This is just prime time type of event for these type of QLCSs. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulkey, urging everyone to stay safe, drive safe, here from the Chevy Storm Tracker.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, that thing spun up quickly, but boy, did it look intense, and it still looks like it's producing some strong winds. Now, it's not as tight, and what I mean by that is the circulation isn't as small and robust as it was, and I'll go back a couple frames. You could see right there, basically, as it was crossing 485, it intensified and got right there along 218 and just went gangbusters. Now it's producing some pretty strong winds there. I wouldn't be shocked if it produced another quick spin up, but it is producing some damaging winds. And I'm going to do another track on this because it's getting away from Midland now, heading towards Big Lick, and they're going to head out towards Norwood. It's moving to the east at about 35 to 40 miles per hour, so a little faster than our southern storm. So Big Lick around 634, Albemarle, probably the southern part of Albemarle. I don't think it's going to make it all the way there because it's probably going to pass to the south. Cottonville's right there, Norwood's right there, Frog Pond just there, Big Lick. Those are the cities that we're looking at. And you can see probably now between now and about 6:45 or so, probably not going to last much longer than that because as Chris was alluding to, these things, as quickly as they spin up, they're gone. Sometimes, unfortunately, with these type of tornadoes that we're seeing closer to Charlotte, they spin up in one slice of the radar, then they're gone. So by the time the warning comes out, you pretty much already missed them. But that's why they'll keep this out in case it does that again real quickly. But I just happened to glance at the radar quickly and just noticed that thing was spinning up, and like a minute before the warning came out, started pushing out some alerts that we're going to have another warning there. Now to the south, we still have that severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Lancaster and Chesterfield County, but that's the whole line pushing off to the east. And I'll widen this out just to show you this line. This is a cluster of storms that formed back into Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia late last night, early this morning, pushed to the east. Looked like it was weakening. Now it's showing signs of re-intensifying as it moves to the east, and we've got a couple warnings out of there. Rare to see a couple warnings like this. No watch today because ingredients weren't that set in stone for a watch to be issued, but now we've seen several of these warnings pop up as this line pushes east. And here's the thing, tonight we've got another big cluster of these storms that'll be heading our way. I'm going to widen this out and I'll show you the wider view because my concern is that we might see another wave of these type storms come in as this big cluster, which is kind of coming together as a line along the front. This is going to be arriving during the overnight hours, pushing into the mountains. But anywhere along this southern edge here, which includes Charlotte down to Lancaster County, then back down into the upstate, the area down here, we've got warm southerly winds coming up. And that's basically feeding these storms. The ones to the north, they're kind of being blocked by the storms down to the south. And if you look at this cluster here, there's actually a little bit of rotation in this whole thing. That's probably a little mesolow, which is just a weak area of low pressure that forms because of a big cluster of thunderstorms. So that might have enhanced our severe potential today just slightly across the area. So again, we thought we might get out of the woods with just severe thunderstorm warnings, but a new tornado warning was issued for parts of Cabarrus and Union County. That's pretty much out of Cabarrus and Union. I'll give you the all clear for Cabarrus and Union. It's all about Stanley County now as this pushes off to the east at about 35 miles per hour. If you live in the path of this storm and you're watching me right now or listening to me on our live stream, our app, please get to that shelter location. If you can, get to the most center location, lowest floor of the house. We want you to get as many walls between you and the outside. If you know somebody that lives in that path of that storm and they're not watching right now, this is your opportunity. Call and text them. Tell them that there's a tornado warning for their area. Let me quickly show you where you need to go in your house. So if you look at your house, you've got outside walls here, outside wall here, then interior walls. Put as many between you and the outside. Stuff's going to be flying around. Hopefully not your house, but stuff's going to get picked up. Each wall can block that debris. If you're on the lowest floor, the ceilings and floors above your head and the roof are walls that block stuff from above. The lower you get, the better. Closets, pantries, even this interior hallway wouldn't be bad. Bathrooms are great if they don't have windows. The plumbing helps out. Underneath the stairs, closets, anything that you can get to the middle of the house. That's the best location. Grab the helmet if you can. Put the helmet on. Bring it in there, no matter what kind of helmet it is. Any kind of head protection. Bring your shoes in there, a flashlight, maybe some kind of charger, one of those power banks, so you can continue to watch us on our app, and you can continue to keep up to date. And again, the windows are your worst case where you won't want to be, because as soon as the window breaks, you might as well be outside. That debris can come flying in. Not to mention you're going to have all that glass flying in on you. So get to your shelter location right now, especially in southern Stanley County. That's our greatest concern. But also down in Chesterfield and Lancaster County, there's a severe thunderstorm warning there where we potentially have some strong winds. So again, severe thunderstorm warning south, but tornado warning for Stanley County to the top of the hour. This storm had a quick spin up. And Fred, this one literally happened in about 5 minutes. It went from just a little bit of straight line winds to basically rotation. And as I look at it real quickly, and that rotation right now is near Locust and Big Lick. So this is the area we're watching, basically heading out towards Albemarle as you go into Stanley County.
Wow, and you have been keeping people safe, that is for sure. If you were just now watching us, we've been on the air now for at least the past 2.5 hours talking about severe storms, tornado warnings in our area. This system spawned by weather that we've seen down in Alabama. NBC News reporting that at least 3 people were killed and many others injured in tornadoes in that part of the country. We've seen a disturbance moving through our area, tracking warnings through Cleveland County and Chester County, and then on up into the southern part, the southwest corner of Chester County, warning people, seeing the pictures coming in from our viewers, telling folks also that this is a great time to download our mobile app, the WCNC News app. You can watch our live stream, watch the live radar, and get the latest updates on this as it's happening. If your power goes down, you can always watch all of this unfold on your mobile device. I want to check back in with you, Brad, to talk about the next threat here. You said that Union and Cabarrus counties are in the clear right now. The big concern is Stanley County.
Yeah, and let me show you why. So on your screen, you saw briefly the velocity data. The storm has kind of exited northern Union County and southern Cabarrus. Doesn't mean it's not windy, rainy, or there's not even lightning or some small hail, but the rotation has moved out of those vicinities, and I'll show you why. We'll go to this circulation here showing up on the velocity right there. So this is that southwest corner of Stanley County, Big Lick right here, not too far from Locust as you go out east. Basically, if you're heading towards Albemarle, that area going out on 27. So the area I'm referring to is just south of the Red Bridge Golf Club. You know, it's kind of right there as you go out towards 200. Going out towards the east. So, you know, United Protective Technologies, a little business, I think, is like right across the street from the entrance to the Red Bridge community. A lot of development going on right in that area. So the strongest circulation is just south of there. So it's traveling just south of all that new development there on 27 as you head out towards Albemarle. And there's the latest track. You just saw the radar sweep by and update. So the circulation is gone, but look at that little area of yellow. That's kind of a downburst. That's a downburst signature. And let me show you the winds inside that downburst, because when I see that, I immediately think downburst right there. And again, that's kind of south of Stanfield, so a little bit farther south of Locust, southwest there. Let me quickly show you the velocities there. We'll kind of pop up a couple And again, so they got 58 mile per hour winds, which is severe. That's severe thunderstorm warning criteria. The winds are coming in and spreading out in all directions. They're spreading in this direction. The greens are winds coming this direction. So they're broadly circulating, but we're not seeing a tight couplet. Like this, sometimes what happens is these winds spread out, they'll wrap into the updraft, and then we'll see that circulation kind of take place. So it looks like we got a new warning there. We'll see if they let me see if they change the warning here real quickly. So they kept that as a tornado warning, but what they've done is kind of shifted the severe thunderstorm warning further south. So that severe thunderstorm warning is up until 7:15 now for eastern Chesterfield County. So there was a little update there, and you can see the tornado warning until 7 o'clock. So we can give the all clear from the tornado warning for southern Cabarrus, northern Union. This is now all about the area in Stanley County, and that's the area that I was telling Fred about, that, quick spin up, it's not rotating as strong. So this circulation is weakened a lot. Now we just have downburst, straight line winds. So even though there's a tornado warning in effect, the threat for a tornado spinning up has diminished greatly. So I would suspect that we no longer have a tornado on the ground. We've got pretty good radar sampling here, but we do have some really strong winds. So just the same, ahead of this storm, I want you to treat this like a tornado warning. Basically, even though it's a severe thunderstorm warning, basically now, get to the middle of your home, away from the outside walls, and especially the windows, because these winds will pick things up and throw them at your house. And I've said this several times, wind is wind. Doesn't really matter if it's rotating or straight line, it's still going to pick things up and throw them around. So Big Lick, Oakboro, Frog Pond, towards Norwood Beach, and then River Haven. So this is heading out into the central and eastern part of Stanley County. And again, that tornado warning now till 7 o'clock, and you can see it basically encompasses the whole southern half of the county. I think we got some pictures from earlier today and some video of some of this weather moving through the area. We've had heavy rain, we've had lightning, we've had some reports of some large hail, but so far no official touchdowns with any of these warnings that came through the area. So we're continuing to watch as these move through the area. This is kind of the around the area, the Indian Land Rock Hill area, which is basically just south of Charlotte. That's where we had some of the strongest winds come through with that line, and they were all straight line, but potentially within that line we had some damaging winds down towards Carlisle, which is down there in the upstate, and down towards the Whitmire area we possibly had some rotation as well. Chris Mulcahy, he has been out in the Chevy Storm Tracker. He's been tracking this all day, kind of around all over the Charlotte area, stuck in traffic at times. And Chris, where are you at now and where are you heading? Looks like you're moving pretty slowly.
Well, if we know anything about Charlotte, I really haven't moved all that much. So right now we're still here on the southern part of 485, but what a difference a few minutes makes, just because now we're looking at pretty much almost clear skies, as clear as you're going to get under this type of case and scenario. So if you are watching from Ballantyne to the Pineville area where we're close to and around, well, I think that you're good for the time being. Where it's really interesting, the evolution of this system, that it quickly swung through, and the internal winds are really driving this forward, and we're going to continue to see the cycles that these type of systems do. So the spin-up tornado, that's the term that we're using with this current event. I think this tornado warning that we're seeing from Big Lick that is all the way far north is about Albemarle to Norwood. This is mainly because of the chance of a spin-up tornado. This is a big difference compared to what we saw down to the south. The one that we were seeing was a little bit more long range. That was a rotation that was keeping together. I think if anything happens, so if you're watching from where the rotation is, as I'm just watching here from the Chevy Storm Tracker, right around Big Lick, extending all the way off towards the east, and that's going to be west of Norwood. Again, good news that we're heading into a less populated area here in Stanley County, so that means that there's not going to be as many people. However, if you're anywhere in line from Big Lick over to Highway 52, that's where we have to watch for that quick spin up. It happens very, very fast. As this system moved through Charlotte, it was a straight line wind event. We were seeing just that heavy rain band, those reds on the radar, and then we started to see those kinks along that line, and I think that's what we're going to continue to see. Now, I am happy to say that as of right now, looking from the Chevy Storm Tracker, I think things have improved, but these type of systems, you don't know how quickly they're going to turn on you. Meanwhile, severe thunderstorm warning just south of where we are here on 485, that continues to cruise off towards the east. I think this will continue to be a straight line wind event. extent, but still all along this line as I'm going up and down the radar around Marshville on the eastern side of Union County. This is classic kinks. I know that sounds weird. I'm not talking about the band, but these little squiggles along the line, that's where these spin-up tornadoes live. We got out of this realm. You actually would rather see it starting to be more of in a straight line. Once it starts to bow, that means the winds are getting stronger. Once you see the little kinks along, that means you can have some spin-up tornadoes. But regardless, as for our wind reports, there was one that was in between Matthews and Monroe. Lawn furniture and trash cans were displaced. Small twigs were broken. Other than that, we're not really seeing anything major from this, so it's something that we want to watch closely. And if you can bring up weather too for you, here's a couple of things that we want to look out for. A quick lesson in severe weather. One, you look for a shelf cloud. That usually covers the entire horizon, and likely along a straight line wind event, you can see that. It's very ominous. It has that definitive line along it. Then moving forward, you also have a chance of seeing what's called a wall cloud. Whenever you have that appendage, that thing that drops down from the bottom, that's what we're looking out for. Now, likely anyone that was watching off from the east of that system that was down in Chesterfield County could have seen something similar to this, but if you're watching the far eastern side of Stanley County, you'll have a chance of maybe seeing this, but I think likely it's just going to be a line of showers and thunderstorms, and of course the last thing that you want to see is going to be when you see that actual appendage coming down. That is a funnel cloud, and even beneath the funnel cloud is a quick lesson. I don't think we really have it in this case and scenario. You can still have some stronger winds that are around that, so even though it's technically in the sky, a lot of times any tornadic activity can start from the bottom. So right now we're here on 485, as I've been alluding to the video. You're good to go. We're not even using the windshield wipers right now, so things are improving, but we're still under that tornado warning until 7 o'clock in Stanley County, just because of that possibility of a spin-up tornado. We'll continue to move our way up towards the east. We're not going to be able to catch up to this thing. Luckily, it's moving pretty quickly. That means it's going to be out of our hair by the time a lot of us are eating dinner. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy, reporting from the Chevy Storm Tracker.
Yeah, Chris, traffic is really crazy out there right now, so please be safe out there. I know it's slow going. Sometimes the traffic can be a bigger danger than the weather sometimes. So here's our system. The circulation is just south of Big Lick. Now, I got a couple reports from the Locust area of some low-hanging clouds. Looked like scud clouds. Didn't really look like there was a rotation. Remember, there's a lot of up and down movement in these storms. I would expect vertical motion. What we're looking for is horizontal motion, this thing rotating this way. Up and down clouds, even fast, is pretty typical. Those are updrafts and downdrafts. By definition, all thunderstorms have those. That's what convection is. That's a convection current. What you want to look for are things rotating like this, and how fast. The more quickly they are, then you're more concerned with some of those low-hanging clouds. But the circulation around Big Lick is in particular kind of broad right now. You see a little surge of wind just on the south side of Big Lick, just south of Frog Pond and Red Cross. Beautiful area of Stanley County here, going on 27 as you go out towards Albemarle. But this is crossing right over areas just south of Big Lick. And again, that area is just there on the south side of Big Lick as you go basically from, I would say, around the Locust area to Stanfield, then heading south on 200 as you go down. You basically go all the way down the Rocky River if you keep going down there. So the Rocky River is just down the bottom of the screen there. So you're going in that direction. So this is continuing through southern parts of Stanley County. Now the question is this going to continue to be a tornado warning? Because we've got, basically a good 23 minutes left in this warning, even though there is no signs of circulation in there. So I can tell you the good news, we're on because of the tornado warning, but there is no rotation currently detected in this storm. So I can tell you the storm has weakened below tornadic criteria, but it's still producing a downburster, damaging straight line winds. We got some videos today. Thanks for sending those in. If you send them in to me on Twitter, Facebook, to the station, we love to see those images. You're seeing some of the pictures. I believe this is from Myers Park area of the heavy rain that moved through today, and you could see how heavy it was and the gust of wind. This is kind of with that, I wouldn't say a squall line, but almost a line of storms that moved through. This eventually became a tornado warning. And then our other piece of video here, I believe, is some of the large hail, and that is golf balls right there. That is huge hail coming down there. Golf ball size hail. If you see anything remotely close to golf balls, call your insurance agent right now to come check out your house and your car. That is the threshold for where we see damage to your roof. And sometimes you may not even notice the car is damaged till the next day. You'll look at it and you'll see those little dimples. Those are the golf ball to, I would say, almost almost baseball, maybe tennis ball size, just under that, some melting going on. But again, so much of that accumulated there, we got basically what we call hail fog. There's so much ice on the ground, it's warm and humid, you'll get some fog to form. But again, hail has been a concern in these storms as well. In fact, we had some big hail reports come out of Lancaster County and Chester County with that storm as it moved through the Carlisle area, the Leeds area, then moved over towards Great Falls. But again, the reason we're on the air right now and the reason we've been on most of the afternoon through our newscast is tracking this severe weather. We've had several tornado warnings, some of them a little bit stronger signatures than others. The one to the south was by far the strongest in Union County, South Carolina. That storm now is right there. Still a supercell producing damaging winds and large hail, but this cell up here is the one we're tracking right now. Much weaker circulation, and you could see it real quickly. I'll go to the velocity data. Yeah, that circulation is all but gone. There's still some broad circulation here, but this has become what we call outflow dominant, which means it's producing straight line winds as it's pushing off to the east. Sorry, I heard you guys said you want me to toss to somebody. Chris, okay, Chris is out there. Hey, Chris, where are you at now? Are you still stuck in traffic?
Yeah, Brad, this is the weakest storm tracking I think I've ever done. I think we've gone about 1 mile so far. So you're looking at in the clear, but I'm also going to be here on Weather 2 trying to show you exactly what's happening. So right now we're around Pineville, so we're barely inching along, but this is in the clear for now. Since this is still a massive system, I'm going to zoom out showing what the Carolinas are looking like, slow and steady. But you can see that little appendage, that line that formed from this system, and that is bowing out. So that shows the stronger winds that are all associated with this. But this is a massive system. It's not often that you have a high tier number 5 as far as your severe thunderstorm outlook goes, and that's exactly what we're looking at, and that's right around Birmingham. So still a lot of activity that's happening there. Meanwhile, a little bit closer to home, still keeping an eye on that tornado warning. We're being a little bit more lax right now because right now nothing is showing that this is as bad as what we were seeing in Chester County. When we had a previous tornado warning that was in Cleveland County, which was now close to about 3 hours ago now, that was the same type of case and scenario. This is one of these QLCSs, so we're not trying to get too advanced for you, but knowledge is bliss sometimes. So that's what we have right now, and that's why we're under this warning in Stanley County until 7 o'clock. They move fast, they form fast, and they're usually short-lived. We're typically, and I hate to admit this, a lot of times when we have a tornado warning in this area, sometimes the spin-up already happened. But since these also form fast and move fast and the most common, there is still a chance that it could come back around Stanley County. So that's what we're keeping an eye out for. So let's zoom back in. We are looking at really, I think, some improvements, even though if you take a closer look, whenever you see those bright reds, it's tough to believe that. So it is going to be one of those things that it's in and out of our hair before you know it. So just in the meantime, you've already seen some of this shrink down a little bit. The main point, I'm not really seeing the rotation that we saw before, which is, again, great news. We're still going to stay with you. I wouldn't be surprised that this is the type of scenario that the National Weather Service said, hey, we don't have the necessary rotation or the tightness that we are typically looking for to keep this tornado warning around, but it's still there because you still have the possibility. Field, it's not as strong as it once was, so we're all looking at better information than what we saw, say, about 15 minutes ago. So good things are happening, even though we're under a tornado warning, something that we're still keeping a watchful eye to the sky. But in the meantime, just wet roads here in South Charlotte. At least we have a little break from the rain before the rest of it can roll through later on tonight. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy reporting from the Chevy Storm Tracker. Sarah French, take it away.
Chris, thank you. If you are just joining us, we have been following these tornado warnings for the past 3 hours. Now take a look at your first warn Doppler radar right now. This all started in Chester. Now it's moved to Stanley County. Of course, you can download the WCNC Charlotte mobile app for the very latest that's happening in your area. These storms, they started in Alabama earlier today. But Brad, if people are wondering, like, we have to stay on the air for this. We are required to, for the safety of our viewers. hours until that tornado warning expires. And this was, you said, a pretty severe tornado storm, but you said it's weakening now. So when do you think this tornado warning may expire?
Yeah, they just kept it up. They could have canceled it here a minute ago, and they decided to keep it up. And I'll just share with you what we're looking at. So this was at 6:39. The Weather Service office out of Raleigh basically said they're going to continue the tornado warning for Stanley County until 7 o'clock. At 6:37, the radar still indicated a possible tornado, but at least 60 mile per hour straight line winds, which was 1 mile east of Oakboro or 8 miles southwest of Albemarle, moving east at 35. So they really didn't emphasize there was a tornado in there, but the straight line winds, I think, is what prompted them. And if you look carefully, you see how the thing is bowing out? It looks like that. Like if you think about bow and arrow, take it like that, and that shape that a bow has, the arrow would be the direction that the winds are pushing. So the strong winds, I think, are the concern here. And sometimes, as you heard me say, wind is wind. So even if it's not rotating wind, we've got 60 mile per hour winds in there. And if I look at the velocity, you can see how that segment is kind of pushing out that bow echo. That's what's producing that straight line winds. And we got some video, I think, from Locust. It was shared with me on Twitter. Thanks for sending this in. And we could see what some of these clouds look, or Big Lick, excuse me, right in that area, the Big Lick area. You could see the low cloud deck there. Again, the thing here is there's no lowering. But the fact that the cloud deck is so close to the surface, that's always something that we would keep an eye on, because the distance between the cloud and the ground is kind of key toward tornado genesis. We know this storm was rotating in the mid-levels, so the closer the gap is between the ground and that rotation, the easier it is for a tornado to form. The wider that gap is, it's harder for them to kind of connect and get a tornado to touch down. But straight line winds, a big concern. And real quickly, let me show you that velocity data right around the area southeast of Frog Pond. I will tell you this, though, the winds overall have weakened considerably in this area, so the winds are not as strong. We had 60, 70 mile per hour winds in here briefly. Now I'd say they're probably in the 30 to 40 mile per hour range. So as Chris was talking about in the Chevy Storm Tracker, he was spot on. Thank goodness we're seeing that trend of everything weakening. But I do want to be very cautious, because along this line, there's another little sneaky area that's showing some broad rotation. Again, this is southeastern Union. It's out of Union County, but it's moving into Anson County. So that's another area I would keep a close eye on. And then we go, further south along this line, and you'll see that storm down in Chesterfield County, which has a severe thunderstorm warning till 7:15. So let me widen this out and kind of play that and show you the loop of this. Something else that's happened in the last hour, which I kind of expected, a Storm Prediction Center put most of our area into the low risk. Remember this morning, we had a low risk for the western part of our area and a medium risk for the mountains. Now every single county in our area has been upgraded to a low risk with a medium risk in the mountains. Why is there a medium risk there when this band of storms move through? Well, here's what we got to watch. We're not out of the woods yet tonight for any severe weather, because I want to show you what's going on to the west. And Fred talked about this at 6 o'clock. We've had a pretty substantial and unfortunately deadly tornado outbreak occurring to our west in Alabama. Feels like Oklahoma with the amount of storms that Alabama's getting recently, into Georgia, Tennessee, and Mississippi. This band of storms has yet to move through. So overnight tonight, we expect another round of storms, I think between 10 p.m. and probably 2 a.m., potentially strong to severe in the mountains. Now, things will be weakening by then, but the question is, just like we saw today, they're not weakening quick enough. And in that vein, I want to show you a quick future cast, because I think it's important to show you, what these storms are going to do over the next couple of hours. So we've obviously got these storms right over us right now. If I put this into motion, you can see this second line of storms around, between 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the morning. Again, right there, I'll stop that at midnight. This is a pretty strong line of storms around midnight. So that's why you got that medium risk in the mountains. And these would be the storms that had just produced tornadoes back in Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, and southern Tennessee. So potentially these will be weakening, but mature thunderstorms that have been going for hours take a while to unwind. So they may not unwind completely as they get in here. So we could potentially see some strong storms later this evening. So that would be a threat that we have tonight. And then overnight, the storms try to keep going, but then they kind of fall apart a little bit. And then early tomorrow morning, there's the cold front crossing over the area. So that's what we're watching for later tonight, that we're not quite out of the woods. We're going to have a big lull in the activity after this first batch moves through. But again, this tornado warning remains in effect until about 7 o'clock. I'm surprised they haven't canceled this out. So we got a lot of pictures and videos sent to us today, and we're going to take a look at some of those right now because people have been sending us a lot of images and video from the area. And Sarah, I know you're joining us right now. A lot of the videos we've been getting from across the area have just shown heavy rain, hail, and wind, but the visibility strikes me of how low it has been at times and probably why traffic has been so bad.
Yeah, Brad, we're just looking at these images and these tweets from viewers. You see this one, Freedom Drive and Berry Hill. Some of these sent to the station, some of them sent to you. Look at the rain getting heavier. That's from Kendall as they head further south. That's on I-77 today. Man, that rain really coming down for them. But continue to tag WCNC on Twitter, Facebook, or you can email us. But a lot of these, too, the wall clouds that you're seeing in these pictures, Brad, pretty unbelievable that we've seen in today that we've been getting in from our viewers.
Yeah, I think we've been fairly lucky that we haven't seen anything touch the ground. You can see that, I mean, Austin had the pictures that probably if there was a tornado, it was this cell down here, Union County, South Carolina, Chester, and then into Lancaster. Now that storm is right there. It is weakened. It still has a severe thunderstorm warning, but if we had a tornado touch down, I would suspect it's this one. And the reason we probably don't have good confirmation yet, it was over a relatively sparsely populated area, so it might be a little delayed. The storm that currently moved through parts of Cabarrus and Stanley County, we don't think it did any damage because I haven't gotten any reports. It was in a pretty populated area as well, and you normally can see you're going to get damage reports coming in pretty quickly in this location. But again, that's the tornado warning. So there's Albemarle. The rotation, if there is any, is right there. You see how it's, you've heard Chris talk about this, you know, it looks like a hose that's got a bunch of kinks in it. When that happens, you can get rotation in this indentation here. You can get a rotation here, and you can get a rotation there. So on either side of the bowing segment, you can get rotation. Because if you think about it, I mean, just to illustrate what's going on here in the atmosphere, you've got really strong winds pushing this out in this direction. You've got winds pushing out very strong in this direction, but here they're slower, so the winds tend to want to wrap in like this. And what happens is if the winds go stronger like this, it just continues spinning and churns up. Same thing happens as this pushes out. The storm can have stronger winds here. You can get a little rotation there or a rotation up there. So when you get those kinks in the line, we call them, or the QLCS setup, you can get tornadoes to spin up quickly. And I'll just quickly look at the velocity data again. The good news is we don't see any rotation in that line, just a lot of straight line wind damage. Now, Chris Mulcahy has been all over the place today in the Chevy Storm Tracker, not moving all that quickly. Every time I look at where he's at, I see red all over the traffic map, Chris, so you picked some bad spots today.
Yeah, well, Brad, here's the good news. We're actually cruising now, so still wet roads. And what was interesting while we were sitting in traffic, you have a lot of time to really observe what's happening. There was a lot of ponding on the side of the road, so I'm happy that this system was moving at the speed it was, or else this could have been more of a flash flooding event, especially the low-lying areas around Charlotte. But you can see even this van in front of up a lot of moisture. But I just put on the new velocity scope for what's coming from our Charlotte radar, seeing winds at anywhere from about 30 to 45 miles per hour. This is an interesting storm system, and we have some darker clouds off in the horizon, but we're under a tornado warning. I still think you have some gusty winds, but it's nothing like we saw before. So one of the hardest things about where this system is, luckily we do have our Charlotte radar that's just reaching far enough to see what the winds are, but whenever we bring up the velocity scope, what you're looking at right here, and this is from Raleigh, and Raleigh's picking up on some of those blues, and GSP is picking up on some of those brighter yellows. The way the radar beam works, it continues to rise in elevation, so it's picking up on what's well above our heads of winds at about 60 to 70 miles per hour. I think that likely is going to translate to about 30 to 40 miles per hour winds at the surface, but we are looking at a better signature here. I'm not seeing anything that's super tight. I think this is a better safe than sorry tornado warning. If you're watching from Big Lick, I'm happy to say that at least you're out of the woods. Just the backside of this is a little bit of light rain, but wind is wind. We'll continue to repeat that. We had a story that we just did a couple weeks ago for a severe weather prepared this week. And any time that you have wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour, that equates the same thing as an EF0. But the whole reason why this was even issued is because we had a signature. It was about 20 minutes ago almost. There was that classic spin-up tornado. So as of right now, we only have 7 more minutes it's going to go here in Stanley County. We still show signs that this is not necessarily going away. Whenever you see these plus signs that are here on the radar, that shows that those positive strikes, usually 10 times louder, 10 times brighter and stronger than the typical negative ones, shows that this is still a strong storm. Still gusty winds up to 40 to 50 miles per hour. Some of those I think could maybe exceed those boundaries, but this is luckily almost going to be out of our area. I think once it starts to head further a little bit into the evening, as it continues its way off towards the east across the Carolinas, it's going to come apart. Seeing a little bit more segments here, not as well together as what we saw over the last several hours, but this is a large-scale system. I hate to say it when these events take lives. Well, it has. Not here in our area, but to our southwest. And this will continue to move from the southwest to the northeast. So this widespread system, even though the main bulk, the worst of the weather that we saw so far, we still now have the chance overnight tonight that the rest of this activity that is still firing up strong through Alabama, now moving into Georgia, could be on our doorstep. So please be weather aware for the time being. Anyone watching in Stanley County from their safe place, again from Big Lick off towards the west, I think that that's the window of opportunity that you're in the clear. As for the rain around the Charlotte area, as you can see here from our Chevy storm tracker, just some darker clouds. We're getting a little bit closer to that system, but it continues to move its way off towards the east, anywhere up to about 45 to 55 miles per hour. So luckily this thing is slowly coming to a close. We now have less than 5 minutes of this tornado warning that's going to be back in action. This is classic spin-up territory. 90% of our tornadoes usually come from this. We're just on air keeping you safe just in case it regenerates, but I think likely if that does happen, it's going to happen east of Stanley County. So again, I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy reporting from the Chevy Storm Tracker. We'll continue to keep a close eye on this system and the next round of rain moving through.
All right, Chris, thank you so much. Yeah, I was just taking a look at some new data coming in with this storm pushing east. It's becoming less tornadic and all what we call outflow dominant. And what I mean by that is I'm going to show you the radar real quickly here, because basically you're going to see a giant severe thunderstorm warning now issued for the whole line. So there's still a tornado warning till the top of the hour, and I agree it's going to expire. They are not going to continue that, but because of this bowing segment, again, think of bow and arrow, pull it out there. That arc means that wind is pushing this out in a bowing segment. It's pushing towards the sandhills. So we've got this huge severe thunderstorm warning which just got issued, and this warning is going to go for a while. It includes several counties. So let me just call them out to you here. We've got Anson, Davidson, Montgomery, Moore, Randolph, Richmond, and Stanley County until 8 o'clock. So basically all of those, in this case it is all of those counties because it's such a large warning. So because of the damaging wind threat with this line now, it's become more of a straight line wind event, and we're going to see severe thunderstorm warnings. Doesn't mean we couldn't see another spin up in this cell at some point, but the attention will then turn to the west. What's going to happen with all of these storms back into, we've got ongoing, just unbelievable. We haven't got into this yet, but just the tornadoes that have touched down in Alabama, just devastation back there. That line eventually is going to head towards the Carolinas late tonight, and we're hoping it weakens considerably, but the problem is, just like we've seen with this first line, it may not weaken enough to keep away the severe weather risk completely, because here's that line right now, and I'll show it to you, moving through parts of Alabama, moving into northern parts of Georgia. That's going to be heading our way later tonight. So just a heads up, you can see the tornado tracks there. If this thing keeps pushing east, this is going to be into the mountains and foothills sometime between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. So that 4-hour window right in the middle of the night. So if you live in the mountains and foothills, might be a good idea. Charge up the phone tonight. Make sure you turn the volume up. Grab the WCNC Charlotte weather app, set those alerts, and also check your WIAs, which are your wireless emergency alerts. Those are built into your phone. You can go check those and see if you've got those turned on for severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, and flash floods. Your phone will go off, and trust me, it'll wake you up. That is a really loud alarm on that thing that'll go off, because tonight we could see a couple strong storms. But again, this tornado warning is set to expire here at the top of the hour. I'm looking at my watch. That is 3 minutes away or less. Now it's going to be 2 minutes away. we are going to see that warning expire, but severe thunderstorm warnings will continue. So we're going to return to the programming at the top of the hour, but we're not going to leave the severe weather coverage, especially if you're online. I will keep things up to date on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as WCNC.com, as well as our app. So you got to go there to get updates on this as this continues to push east, because this will head into the central part of the state, probably weaken a little bit, and then wave number 2. And obviously tonight at 11, we'll have complete coverage, because by that time, I would expect wave number 2 to be through here. So before I leave you, let me do a quick little track on this line as it pushes off to the east. And this is where it's heading next. So you've got a good list of cities, all of these towns, and the path of this storm as it pushes east. The tornado threat's gone down, but the straight line wind threat is continuing to be the problem with this as it becomes a bow segment. Back into the Charlotte area, just to give you an idea what's going on there, you can see back to the west, we've got basically things are into a brief lull, but there's more storms developing back here through the foothills and back into the mountains. So we've got a couple waves of showers and storms, kind of a stormy night ahead as we go through the evening, Fred.
All right, Brad, and you've been watching our severe weather coverage for the past 3 hours. Stanley County tornado warning expected to wrap up here at 7 o'clock. We are watching for severe thunderstorms tonight, as Brad just said, and now is the perfect time to download the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. It'll send you severe weather alerts when storms are heading into your neighborhood. You definitely want to do that, and it's a free download as well.
So we'll continue to monitor these storms, keep you updated on air and online, and of course we'll have the latest on the weather and news tonight at 11.